I call to order this regular meeting of the Verona Township Council for the 21st of October, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act compliance statement?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to this meeting of the Township Council. The meeting time and date were included in the public meeting notice, along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice and the meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building, sent to the official newspapers of the township, the Verona City Road Times, and the Star Ledger at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this at org/council meeting. A public comment period will be held in the order listed on the meeting agenda, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland. Here. Councilwoman McGrath. Here. Councilman Roman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Matt.
Present.
Mayor Tamboro.
Here.
Mayor also present tonight is Township Attorney Brian Aloya, Township Manager Joe DiArco, Deputy Township Manager Kevin O'Sullivan, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Keir.
Thank you. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with freedom.
First on our agenda this evening is the mayor's report. So I'm going to be brief as possible for everybody. It was a pleasure to participate with the truck loading for the Verona Fights Hunger Week. There was a massive amount of food that was provided for both the Episcopal Church of the Holy Spirit and the Human Needs Food Pantry of Montclair. So thank you to everybody, especially the Girl Scouts, for helping to load the truck, and our volunteers and the Junior Women's Club for their amazing work. It's just truly exceptional. And to say that day really symbolizes what it means to be part of a community like Verona. Shortly after that, the council dedicated the new sign, the beautiful new sign at the intersection of Bloomfield Avenue and Pompton Avenue that was graciously donated by DCH Montclair Acura. So it's a great spot. We also have brand new flags up there because when you stand near those flags, you notice that they're a little old. So as of this morning, we have beautiful new New Jersey, US, and Verona flags. I had the honor to present an award at the Verona Festival of Bands, which is another great community activity that happened this weekend. And it's always a pleasure to see our home band program present. They're not in competition at that event, but they did an amazing, amazing job as well. Just before this meeting, we had our Italian Heritage Month flag raising that was sponsored by Verona Unico. And it was a real pleasure to do that. Verona Unico is an amazing organization that gives so much to the town. In addition to celebrating Italian heritage, they provide assistance to many people in town, regardless of one's heritage or culture. Second to last, this is our last meeting before the November election. So please vote if you have not done so already. Big election coming up. And finally, I want to thank the Verona Fire Department, Rescue Squad, Police Department, Emergency Management Office, DPW, Construction Officials Office, and all our mutual aid partners. The town had yet another building fire today before this meeting in the Wayland section of town, and it was a quick stop. But it's going to be a long time. The fire department has to be there because of some complications. But they did a really amazing job. I was able to stop in, help with some emergency management matters, and speak to the homeowners, and they're in good spirits. So we do things quickly in Verona, and we support our community. So once again, proud of all those organizations and services. So we have some fun things on the agenda tonight, including plenty of recognition, which is what I love. So we're going to do our softball players. So the Verona 12U summer travel softball team went undefeated this summer with a record of 9-0, which is amazing. The girls accumulated a total of 74 hits, including 7 doubles, 5 triples, and 2 home runs. They had an impressive batting average of .411, which is amazing. That's better than our professional ball players for sure. even ones that make like $30 million in a season. So you have some good futures coming up, ladies. They had an on-team base percentage of 584. They accumulated a total of 73 walks against only 34 strikeouts. They stole a total of 87 bases at a 96% success rate while scoring a total of 113 runs, which is amazing as well. Our pitchers, raise your hand if you're a pitcher. Pitchers never get any credit, right? So our pitchers struck out 61 batters over those 9 games, but walking 37 and only giving up a total of 37 earned runs. And the defense committed less than 2 errors per game, or a total of 17 errors on the season, computing to a fielding percentage of 881, which is another impressive statistic. Despite the fact that we have these amazing statistics, I celebrate, and I think we all do up here, the things that we can't quantify in paper. The teamwork that you all put in, the strength and personal commitment you put in, doing sports in multiple seasons all year round is busy for you, for your parents, a lot of rides and a lot of time management. You all work together as a team. You listen to your coaches to really improve. You would not have had this success without a desire to grow and that mindset that's so important in everything that you do. So I congratulate you on behalf of the township. I want you to understand that your accomplishments is an accomplishment for our entire community in a place like Verona, something that we can celebrate. So we're thrilled that you're here this evening, and let's give everybody a round of applause for the team. Maybe at some point, one of you can teach me how to hit a ball with a bat, and then we'll be all in good shape. We have certificates for everybody who participated. I'm going to ask for the deputy mayor's help in handing these out. And if the entire council wants to come up, everybody. So when we call you up, just kind of fill in behind. We're trying to get pretty good at this. So, all right. When I call your name, come up. We'll shake hands. Deputy Mayor will give you your certificate. Actually, I think I read all of that. Yes. All right. So everybody has a certificate. First up, at number 24, Lucy Caruso, 24. That is a good handshake, by the way. That's a hard one to beat. Zoe Davila. Zoe, number 27. Number 13, Maura Field. She couldn't make it. Yeah. Maura pretty heavily lobbied me for a dog park at one point, I believe. So she's had her civic involvement. Olivia Lee, number 11. Number 44, Caitlin Mann. Number 17, Victoria Malva. Number 6, Sophie Petrangeli. Number 18, Ava Schumacher. Number 2, Sienna Spina. And number 5, Addison Venezia. And we must also recognize our coaching staff, and it's quite a coaching staff here. We have certificates for you all as well. Vincent Spina, Coach Spina. Congratulations, Coach. Assistant Coach Will Caruso. Congratulations, Coach. Well done. Assistant Coach Dave Field. In order. They're all the same. Yep. Congratulations, sir. Assistant Coach Joe Davila. Well, we'll get his. He's taking. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Assistant Coach Victor And an assistant coach and frequent guest at our township council meetings with his maroon kicks, Paul Petrangeli. All right, now, because of height things, we're going to ask you guys to step forward. We're going to get around behind coaches if you want to fill in.
Really?
Standing on tiptoes back here for sure. Thank you.
I'm going to see him.
Everybody look.
Oh, wait, no, they're right.
Favorite positions.
One more. Everybody keep smiling.
It's a pain, guys.
One.
With that. Ready? Wait a second. I want to get that on that in.
Gotta check this.
Nope.
Someone's on here.
Yeah. Like I said, thank you.
That's what I've been.
I have it, Zoe. Zoe, I have it. I have it. So,
Please, you won't find it rude if you don't want to stay the last meeting. If you want to hear about our veteran banners, you are welcome to stay because that's very exciting.
I gotta get back ready for tomorrow.
They're shrinking for the door.
I'm just dropping off the sock. I'll be back in 5. Let's get the bag then out.
You don't have. Now back to our original programming. Thank you everyone for joining us again this evening. It is a pleasure to recognize our Verona Veterans Banners program. That was the brainchild of our township manager, Mr. Diarco, who was a combat Vietnam veteran. The Verona Heroes program originally started with Rob Caruso, who is a retired special agent with the United States Secret Service and an amateur historian, took an interest in recognizing the fallen in Verona, the 44 Verona veterans who either bravely lost their lives in combat or while otherwise serving in active duty. The 44 veterans participated in some capacity in either the Civil War, Vietnam, World War I, or World War II. There's still a website that you can read all of these on as well. As part of the banner project, the township solicited residents and partners to donate to a trust fund to support the Hometown Heroes program. The township worked with a veteran-owned and operated company, Military Tribute Banners, to design the banners, which will be displayed yearly until they reach the end of their lifespan. The banners will be on display on November 1st, so we look forward to that. I would like to thank not only Mr. Diarco, but confidential assistant to Mr. Diarco, Chris Gould, who was instrumental in this process, as well as our extremely energetic and professional summer intern, Brina McKell, who we say is the chief of staff to the council, for working closely with the administration to get this project done. So let's hear it for our staff. So I'd like to recognize the all sponsors, and then once we've done that, we'll call up the sponsors who are present to come forward like we did with the softball players, if that works for everybody. Our first sponsor, Mr. Joseph Diarco, our township manager and U.S. Army veteran. Mr. and Mrs. Pablo Graham, Verona residents in loving memory of Thomas McCulligan of the U.S. Army. Waste Industries, which is the township's waste and recycling hauler. Boswell Engineering, our township engineer. The Verona PBA, and we'll call up, I saw Detective McGuire earlier. Brown & Brown, our insurance broker and risk management broker. Negley Engineering, the engineer for the Everett Field project. Mark DeCunti, who was a veteran. Millennium Strategies, the township grant writer. Catherine Falkenthal, a Verona resident. American Wear, Dean DiFilippo, who provides DPW gear and clothing to our staff. PTO folks Connor Davies and Dave Gannon, who gets to be here for yet another meeting in 2 meetings. Our township auditor and a great supporter of many things that go on in the township. Veteran Mark Kaplan, veteran Kevin Ryan, and Mayor Emeritus of the Township of Verona, and Annette Heyman, who is also a resident of Verona as well. So thank you to everybody who sponsored a sign, a banner. I think it's going to be a beautiful addition, and we cannot recognize our veterans enough. And in Verona, as a small town we recognize everybody's contribution, not only to the town, but our greater community. And this is going to be a very special display that we have, and one that can live on in perpetuity as we remember everybody who participated. I invite everybody to our annual Veterans Day ceremony, which is held at 11 a.m. on the 11th November. So please join us on the steps of Town Hall, weather permitting. If it rains, we'll be inside the lobby downstairs of Town Hall, but please join us. It's a beautiful ceremony. This time, I'll ask the council to come on down, and we will distribute to those who are here.
Yeah.
Get out.
Joe's not even in a picture.
Sorry, camera.
You're still like.
That's what made them.
Christine. God.
All right, we're gonna do this correctly. We're gonna be good. All right, from American Wear, Dean DiFilippo. Dean? Thank you, Dean. Deputy Mayor will give you your.
Thanks, Ethan.
Your class.
No, sort of.
There.
Sorry.
That's the order I'm saying. It's all right. From Boswell Engineering, Township Engineer Peter Tenkate. Pete. Thank you, Pete. Travis Locke from Brown and Brown. Travis is the best dressed guest here today. So the uniform is pretty good. Joanne and Mark Diacunti.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Joseph Diarco, who's literally hiding in his car. He's actually here. Look at this. All right. Joe. No.
Oh, man.
Thank you. You can keep that. All right. Cam Falkenthal. Mark and Ellen Kaplan. We'll stay up here for a picture. Welcome, Cam.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Anthony Curris from Negley Engineering. Thank you. Dave Gannon from PCAP O'Connor Davies. Gannon. Detective Bobby McGuire from the Verona PPA. Detective McGuire is the president of PPA.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Bobby. And Glenn Signorella from Waste Industries. Wow. We have Kevin Ryan as well, and Val Ryan.
So cool.
Like there?
Yes. Too many.
I got a lot of memory. But I didn't miss anybody, right? All right. Now you guys can't take the pictures. Let's bring up Ms. Gould and Ms. McKell to come join us up here, please.
Come on, Christine. Let's also make sure that we rate ourselves by height.
Why don't we put the council around the back?
Sure.
We'll do put the council
On the dais?
Even among our honorees, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Let's make sure everybody.
so we're all back there around. Everybody else wants to come to the sides as long as you're not a security risk. We got the jet in the back. Come on around the sides, join us.
So ready? Good public chair.
Yes.
Sorry, British steps.
All right.
Hold it again, please.
It's okay.
Yes.
Oh, you.
It's not a boy.
It's just, you know.
Oh, okay. It's hold on. Right then, the Martin can say. One of them will find out if they're open. Yes. What sense? You can do one more.
All right, at this time, I'll ask Mr. Jay Coltrane, our county liaison, to come up.
You go 9-0. I'm not a veteran.
You have the golf course, Jay, you're good.
Well, let's put it this way. It's always fun and enjoyable to come to Verona. We enjoy it. My wife wants to know what do I do on Monday nights, but I come to she can watch the TV and see. This coming weekend, October 26th at Brookdale Park, we have Strut Your Nut from 9 a.m. at registration. 9:30 is the parade and awards afterwards. Rain date is Sunday, and on the same day at Grover Cleveland Park, registration is 1 p.m. Parade is 1:30, and just in case there's a rain date, could use the rain, but it's on Sunday also. And October 31st is Halloween. And at our zoo, we're having an open house. It's $5 admission, and it starts at 4:15. There's parades 5:15, 6:15, 7:15, candy being given out, etc. The last admission to the zoo is at 7 p.m. So it's a great day, a lot of candies. It's a safe holiday, and that's what we look for, watch our children more than anything else. And there's a new event for me, and I have never been to this, Road to Wellness, a mobile health fair. And I was reading over, and it is at Sunday, November 10th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Bridgebrook Park at the Cherry Blossom Welcome Center. And it's a public health event. They're going to have mammogram screening, pap smear screening, prostate cancer screening, stroke and diabetic risk assessment, HIV and STD testing, dental and oral health education, and an array of other things they even having a washer and dryer service and a fresh produce farm market. So please come out. It's a worthwhile day to come out for your seniors or for anyone who needs testing. Like I said, it's Sunday, November 10th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the new Cherry Blossom Welcome Center between Heller Parkway and Mill Street. It's really probably across the street from Claremont Hospital within the park. And finally, we're getting to that time of the year. It is when you get it up. So I have it in front of me, holiday lights. We're getting ready. So the first opening is Friday to Sunday, November 22nd to the 24th. Then again, Friday, November 29th to Wednesday, December 4th. And then full-time Friday, December 6th to Tuesday, December 31st. The zoo will be closed on December 24th and 25th. So we're gearing up. I know they're putting them up already. We bought some new trees. There's a lot of new additions. So it's an enjoyable month of December. And hopefully everybody's gearing up for the holidays. The last thing, which was a reminder, is, like you mentioned, Mayor, early voting. It will take place. One of the locations is the Verona Community Center, which starts this weekend, Saturday, October 26th through Sunday, November 3rd. The hours are Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you haven't voted already, please go out and do so. Get your vote by mails in. If they came to your house, please do so. It's very important, whichever side of the aisle you're on. But come out and vote. Anything from the mayor and council?
Any questions? Councilman Roman?
Just a thank you to the county. I had to get a last minute mail-in ballot due to some travel, and the county clerk's office and board of election staff were incredibly helpful, and we're serving a large number of people that were in the same boat down there. So I just wanted to say it's a very efficient process, and they're there to make sure that everybody understands and is able to vote. So just wanted to thank the county for those efforts.
Thank you very much. I've been down there quite often. My wife was down there voting by mail. So I agree with you, very efficient, and all three offices do a great job.
Yes.
And they still may be looking for people to work the polls, so you can contact the office of the superintendent of elections. So somebody's looking for a job on election day, but they're also looking, they used last year, and I don't know if they're using them this year. There's a lot of high school seniors who can participate. So it's a great, civic duty that you can get out and you get paid for it.
Mr. Kiernan has run a robust program in that area.
Wonderful. Anything else?
All right, and next on our agenda is the Verona Municipal Alliance Committee presentation. Corner and Jocelyn. Ms. Jocelyn, you come join us, please.
Thank you for inviting the Verona Municipal Alliance Committee here tonight as you honor the Safe Homes program. I'm honored to be here and humbled to be following our great youth programs and our brave veterans, and of course our distinguished county representative. So Safe Homes at its core is a registry of like-minded families pledging to encourage and model positive behaviors. VMAC is funded by a grant from the Governor's Council on Substance Use Disorders and matching funds from the Township. While the grant may be relatively small, the impact is great due to partnerships and community support. I'd like to highlight that tonight. First and foremost, VMAC is a committee of 15 volunteers who work tirelessly to bring our programs to life and who reach out to the community through social media, town events, and informational webinars. VMAC works with the public school system to deliver peer leadership and mentoring programs. We partner with the Verona Police on in-school programs at all grade levels, outreach to senior citizens and parents, and in the medicine drop box and DEA take back days. The next one is actually coming up this Saturday. We worked closely with the Verona Public Library last spring to bring art therapy to our senior citizens, and we continue to look for ways to partner. The Verona Health and Recreation Departments collaborate with us to deliver programs and information. And the very popular family night would not be possible without the tremendous support of our local businesses. So most importantly this evening, we want to thank the members of the council and the community for supporting the Safe Homes program and the mission of VMAC. Our mandate is to combat underage drug and alcohol use and all substance abuse by pursuing our mission to celebrate and cultivate the compassion, character, and confidence that people, especially our youth, need to make good choices in life. And that would not be possible without the support of our partners. So again, I say thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from Ms. Moss? Before we let you go.
More just a comment again. I just want to thank you and all the volunteers on VMAC, which I know some are here.
Kimberly
today.
Mannix is here. She's our chair, newly sworn in chair.
Wonderful. And I want to, thank you and all the volunteers for all of your hard work. It is a lot to even just coordinate family night, but all of the programs that you do throughout the year. It is a lot of effort and integration with our school system, our Verona Public Library, and other partners. So I just want to really thank you for everything that you are all doing for us.
Thank you. And again, it wouldn't be possible without you. Councilwoman Holland sits on our committee, attends all of our meetings. We really appreciate her input. And again, the support of all of you.
Thank you. As a former member of VMAC by virtue of being an advisor to a couple of the school-based programs, I can attest to the hard work that is happening there, but also the thoughtfulness that goes into all of that programming. And personally, for those of you who don't know, Ms. Jocelyn was our coordinator and is now our coordinator again, came back to what can be a difficult position, and is running a great program again. So, Anne, thank you for that. And I hope as many families as possible will sign on to the Safe Homes Pledge, because we can really avoid some major tragedies by that. Ones I've unfortunately seen in my EMS work. They're so incredibly preventable. So thank you for your work and really getting that done.
We appreciate it. We're proud to bring these programs and it's very rewarding work. So we thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Anne. And I believe that is it for my report today. It is my honor to turn the meeting over to our township manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On my agenda, I have one for you is the special meeting we have to schedule. The clerk is attempting to schedule for you for the review of the RFPs for the streetscape. She is aids for you, getting responses back when you're available. It's been very challenging for 2 months now. We need to really have that. Companies have all submitted RFPs and we've gone through, Kevin and I have gone through looking through them for you, and you may want to look at all 6, but we're 3 for you. And your clerk is supposed to coordinate the meeting.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Question. Thank you. Okay, so these are, they're lengthy RFPs.
Yes.
So would you like the council to rank order who we would like to speak to, like put in preference?
That's what Mrs. Kieran and I discussed. So when she sends that email out, she's going to do that, and then we'll do the top 3, Jen. I think that's what we decided.
Right. I can send it
That's
again
fair. I don't.
and I'll put instructions on the red dots.
And a due date for us would be helpful. So you know what to do.
So I can do that one. Will the deputy manager's report is so of the projects that are in motion, the projects that we are considering bidding, some of the special meetings that I've had during the month with Kevin and I have had with the rescue on the emergency services building, a meeting with fire again. I've had my regular meeting with the superintendent of schools over coordination of projects and keeping the lines of communication open with the Board of Education. I am scheduling again with Colwell University, I'm dating myself, Colwell University relative to their facilities uses. Sure, if you would like the deputy manager report first, and then go into New Gen's full study.
Let's hear from the deputy manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will, understanding that we have the pool rate study to discuss, I will try to briefly go through my report. I know we have a lot to discuss with the pool itself. One of the items is the pool improvements. We did receive bids. We will discuss the cost of that project briefly in the rate study, but we will also require some supplemental funding for the award of that contract. Again, we will work through the rate study discussion shortly. And in order to advance that project, we aim to prepare a supplemental bond ordinance for introduction in November. With wastewater, we have completed our smoke testing. We've also completed the televising of the trunk line that runs parallel to the Peckham River between Bloomfield Ave and the wastewater plant. There are obvious needs along in different sections and along that trunk line. We will be summarizing those needs and putting together a summary report to the council shortly. A number of the other projects are moving through their different stages of each project. Most notably, the primary clarifier pumping station is finally out to bid. We did get authorization from the iBank to authorize and advertise that project. We will be receiving bids on November 22nd. For the drinking wells, Lynn Drive well continues under construction. The target remains to put that project, that well back online in December, and the contractor remains on schedule for that date. Again, Fairview Avenue well, we do still await the authorization from the iBank to advertise that project, and that's hinged on the Green Acres final approval for that diversion application. We also have our Claridge Drive pump station project. That is probably about a 2-week delay behind the clarifier pumping station project. So we hope within the next few weeks we will have that we'll have authorization to advertise that project as well. We do continue to reach out to our energy audit team that's performing local government energy audit. They did indicate that we should be receiving the final energy audit, which is the wastewater treatment plant, by the beginning of November. And once we have all the energy audits, we will circulate them to the mayor and council. We will also schedule them for a presentation. And we are also working with, continuing to work with the solar consultant. We will be scheduling follow-up meetings with the solar consultant in relation to the feasibility study that they've been working on. A number of road projects. We've finished construction on most of our road projects that were open. The next one that is queuing up for the next design and construction is Linden Avenue. As everyone has probably seen, the temporary demonstration has been installed on Linden Avenue. Again, the temporary demonstration is a demonstration of 3 different controls, which are attempts to address speeding concerns along Linden Avenue. They've been installed. We are collecting data that will be compared to the pre-installation speeding data that we have on file. And then we're also performing a walkthrough audit with the Complete Streets Technical Assistance Team on October 24th. Again, the desire of this project is to see what methods are effective and which ones are not, and which ones may fit into a final design on Linden Avenue for construction in 2025.
Mr. Deputy Manager, if I could just stop you right there.
Sure.
It may be helpful on this one. We've been getting a lot of unsolicited feedback in different places about this. And we might need to do a little more PR here as far as explaining what the purpose of this is. So people are interpreting, there is a survey that is out collecting data, but people are interpreting this as a new traffic pattern, and like this is markouts for a new traffic pattern and not what it actually is, which is testing these different instruments. So it might be helpful to get a blast out, especially on social media, where all problems get solved, and to get some information out there that just says we're testing these things, that this is not a proposed pattern. And I think there has been some out there, but definitely not enough to catch the eye of a lot of people. And maybe even like some signage or something that it's like, these are proposed things, but just throwing that out there before I forget, because this seems to be an item of public intrigue at the moment, because it is.
We can certainly do that. We can highlight that the temporary demonstrations will be leaving soon, and we can also highlight that if people have comments, they should provide them through the survey.
Real quick, I think we've all gotten calls on it, but I've directed people towards, my Verona did an article on it, and they were very specific about being temporary, so I've directed people that way, so you can push that out too.
Right, that was
Very well.
it was an effective Q&A type of article that served the purpose of sending that same message. So we can certainly look to do the same. Absolutely.
Yeah, even like a Nixel, whatever we call it, alert Verona glance that just goes out and says, gives a little more information and link to a page where we can take that Q&A and put that out there, something along those. Getting a lot of questions.
Yes.
Councilman McGrath.
The walkthrough though on October 24th is open to the public as well. And like the invitation went out so the community can join the
Yes.
conversation. So besides just filling out the survey, they can join the conversation on the 24th. Granted, it's in the middle of the workday, but
Yes, that's correct. It starts at 1:00 in Town Hall. We will then move out to Linden Avenue to actually walk and observe the traffic and the temporary demonstrations that are out there. And then we'll return back to Town Hall and talk through the successes and or failures of the demonstration.
Sure, that will be a lot.
Thank you.
The Everett Field project continues through design. Administration did meet with VBSL on October 15th, discuss the building and coordination. We'll have another follow-up meeting with both VBSL and Meglia on November 12th. Pickleball and tennis courts, we did receive bids for that project last week as well. There is a need to also prepare supplemental bond ordinance for the award of contract for that project. The low bidder was $442,000. There were significant number of bids submitted for that project, so there were competitive bids on the project. It is a fluctuating market, but I think we did get a good bid based on the number of bid responses and that they were all clustered closely together. So that is the correct bid price. So we will prepare that supplemental bond ordinance for introduction in November. Continuing on.
Mr. Sullivan.
Sure.
so is there both this and the pool resurfacing came in over. So is there an explanation on both why the estimate was off?
So I think there are probably slightly two different reasons. I think the pool projects in general, it's a very specialized type of work. There's very few contractors. So to get reliable and accurate estimates prior to construction, one, it is difficult because it's such a specialized service with so few contractors. But it is also it is a relatively volatile type of construction project as opposed to a repaving, a roadway reconstruction project where there are many more contractors. There's much more stability in those types of prices and projects. Pickleball and tennis courts are somewhat similar, again, because it's a recreational project. It's small area repaving. There's a specialty surface that is provided at the end of the paving on the project. And there was slight elements where as you're going through the final design, the determination, the original estimate, additional drainage around the site. There was some additional site work and some additional landscaping that was added. So there were some additional design elements, but there's also, again, it is a specialized contractor that there are not a lot of recreation contractors that do these types of projects. So again, there's a little bit of uncertainty when you prepare those preliminary estimates.
Okay, thank you.
With a couple of the sustainable initiatives, I think the one to highlight is that we had a kickoff meeting for the community energy plan on October 18th. That was an internal discussion. We had the Sustainable Jersey intake meeting earlier today. We will continue to report progress on that community energy plan, but there are a lot of initiatives that Verona has already implemented that they do recommend as part of the plan. So it'll be helpful. It's helpful to see that Verona is already ahead of the curve on a lot of these initiatives. We will continue to report on that as we move forward. The jumping ahead, the affordable housing figures were released by the state. The Affordable Housing Council, Affordable Housing Planner, Township Planner Administration will be meeting later this week. We've scheduled that meeting in anticipation of working together to prepare project timelines and ensure that the Affordable Housing Planner and the Township Planner are are working together to join efforts on each of their initiatives to make sure that we're hitting all of the timelines and syncing those up with mayor and council meeting dates and then planning board meetings as well. And the last bid that we did receive was, again, town hall windows and repointing. And these are 3 bids that are all, again, they are specialized work. The town hall window and repointing project, we did receive bids. The intention on this project was to break the window replacement and the repointing of town hall into 2 separate phases. One was to be undertaken in 2024, one was to be undertaken in 2025. The totality of both of those phases would have been approximately $800,000 to $900,000 in total capital costs for the rehabilitation of town hall. The bid, as it was prepared and packaged, that was just opened on October 17th. It included a number of alternative bids. It was the base bid plus 4 separate alternates. In total, the project exceeded the funding for capital in phase 1. However, it is under budget for what would have been phase 1 plus phase 2 collectively. So we're working with the CFO to review the bids and also review the approved capital budgets to see if there's any reappropriation, to see if we can wipe this project off of consideration for future years and eliminate the need for a phase 2 of this project. But we are currently reviewing what the options are.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dick?
Thank you. I just want to go back to the statement you made about affordable housing. And just and thank you for listening to some of the concerns that I raised about the timing. We all know this is an incredibly aggressive timing. A lot needs to get done by June 30th and other milestones, because this will be a project that both the Township Council and the Planning Board will be heavily involved in. And we have 2 planners, which is great, actually, 2 sets of experts. I think I used the word, we have to be really disciplined on understanding our current meeting schedule, when things need to be decided. Do we need to have special meetings? Let's plan them now. And where is there wiggle room in case we don't have agreement? And we need to actually debate what is the best course of action. These decisions that we're going to make in the next 8 months will impact our community forever. And so it is a very serious and important project, but the timing is so aggressive. And obviously 560 whatever other municipalities in New Jersey or a heavy fraction of them are all going through the same thing. So do we have the right professionals lined up, legal counsel, all of that? So I do appreciate whatever internal coordination you're going to kick off on Wednesday, but I would really like to see a copy of that timeline, as soon as it's prepared. I'm sure we all would, because this is going to be a lot. So thank you.
Okay. Any questions for our deputy manager? Any questions? Okay. We're at the pool rate study.
Is this what you need?
Sure.
You want moment to set up?
Fine, I need a moment too.
Maybe not. You want me? Here we go. Thank you. Mr. Mayor and Council, it's a pleasure to be here. By myself before you, unfortunately with large numbers followed by the word increases. But it's my pleasure to be here. My name is Eric Colloquio from New Strategies and Solutions. I'm here to discuss the draft results of our pool utility study. A couple of things I want to say before I go through the slides. Everything here tonight is to foster discussion. All the numbers you'll see
is an opportunity for us to provide you information. I would not consider anything written in stone right now, so we're here to answer questions and provide you our initial draft results. I have a brief presentation that I'll go through, and again, the goal is to have a discussion, so I'll be happy to answer questions after. I'll talk a little bit about the background and purpose of our study, some of the data we relied on, the assumptions we made, which are key to the results that we developed. Talk about the cash flow scenarios that we developed as part of the study, again, focusing on a financially stable pool utility, and some of the fee scenarios that we developed to match those cash flow scenarios. We've been working on this since early 2024. This year, we've been working with staff who have been essential in providing us information to develop these results. The bottom line we were tasked with investigating was, how do we build a financially stable pool utility? As you know, the 2024 budget pool included $200,000 of ARPA money that is no longer going to be available as a revenue source for the pool utility going forward 25 and beyond. We were tasked with developing a 5-year and 10-year forecast using reasonable assumptions of how we generate the appropriate revenue or save enough dollars within the utility to meet that revenue burden that is no longer available. In order to develop these forecasts, we wanted to use the most recently available data. We used the actual operating costs as much as we could from this 2024 pool season to make sure we're established in the most recently available data. We did adjust for things that we know are going to happen. I was here previously discussing water rates. We know your water rates are going to increase. That is going to impact the pool utility going forward. We made some other adjustments, again, consistent with some of the recommendations and things you'll hear after this presentation about operating hours, cost increases, things like that. We've tried to be as consistent with those as possible in our study. Our focus always is to maintain appropriate reserves in the pool utility. Given some of the timing of the expenses and some of the forecasts, the pool utility needs an appropriate level of operating and capital reserves to fund future expenses. Our focus is maintaining cash flow to maintain these reserves. And you'll see that in some of our charts, and you'll see detailed information of that in our draft report. This table here shows the operating costs of the pool utility. The top two lines are primarily wages and benefits and operating expenses of the utility. It totals approximately $543,000 in 2024, increasing to just over $680,000 in our 5-year forecast. These are the labor costs. These are tied closely to the minimum wage and how that's going to increase in New Jersey over the 5-year forecast. Operating expenses, things like uniforms, day-to-day operations, things like that. Opening and closing the pool, things like that. Listed below that are what we're calling other funds. These are costs that have historically not been captured in the pool utility. However, you've made an effort over the past year to include these. We're continuing to include them. The primary one, of course, is water purchases. You purchase Township water to run the pool. That cost is going to increase over the next years. We've increased that from about $37,000 to about $50,000 beginning next year, and increases thereafter. Overall, this is relatively stable, again, because it's tied to labor costs, and those are relatively stable in our forecast. But it is increasing to the range of about 4 to 6% per year over this 5-year period. The other key component of the pool utility is the debt that's incurred to complete major capital projects. It occurs every so often. You have one on the books for the splash pad that you installed recently. That will capitalize in fiscal year 2027. We've included that. You will pay off some of those existing debts in 2027, so there's a balance there. You can see this chart overall increases, but this is all stuff that's on the books already. We estimated, I want to make clear that we estimated the debt service for the $1.6 million splash pad. You can see 15-year amortization at 4.8% interest. That is not final. That is not a final number. However, our forecast is meant to be able to capture that if there's some variance there in terms of the interest rate cost there. The next slide shows our forecasted capital improvement plan. Again, these are some ongoing and one-time costs to maintain a safe and operational pool. The largest one, of course, Mr. Solo mentioned, you opened bids last week for the pool replastering. In our initial study, previous to that, that number was about $330,000, maybe $350,000 based on your estimate. It is now $550,000, which is the mid-range, depending on the engineering and design costs of that. The good news is, in our forecast, that did not change our results that we initially arrived at using the lower number because of the amortization of that and the fact that our focus was on maintaining cash flow. So that increased the cost by about $20,000 to $30,000 per year, by almost doubling the cost of that project. However, our results in terms of fee increases remain the same when we plug that number in, and that's what our ultimate goal is, to manage either increases in costs or decreases in revenue in a way that we can maintain a stable pool fund. The other cost here, the larger one coming up in the recent future, is rehabilitating the basketball courts. Everything else is maintaining trees, placing furniture, things of that nature. This slide shows the total cost forecast of the pool utility going forward. Essentially, you're running a utility at about $1 million a year, and that's going to be increasing in the future. In 2024, you can see that was offset by $200,000 of ARPA revenue that is not included in 2025 and beyond, which means in 2025, the revenue need from fees and passes and things like that is about $950,000, which is up from about $653,000 this current budget year. The offsetting revenue here are related to the rental fees that you charge, the rental fees you charge for the concession. These are offsetting, but you can see in $1 million utility, we're forecasting those to be no more than about $50,000 to $60,000 per year, which means ultimately that cost is driven by your membership fees. Bottom line cost is driven by your membership fees. And we did some forecasting on increasing the revenues from those non-fee revenues. I mentioned two cash flow scenarios. Again, our focus is on maintaining a stable fund. One way to do that is to immediately increase fees next year so that you no longer make use of the pool's fund balance to support operations. That was our first scenario. An immediate increase in fees to generate the $950,000 and whatever is necessary going forward, beginning next year. The second scenario is using time, essentially, to use fund balance over the course of the next 2 years, and then in 2027, meeting a stable cash flow, generating at least or slightly more than the operating capital needs of the system. But all throughout those 2 years, we are maintaining fund balance. You'll see in the next couple charts that our fund balance decreases, but we're over our recommended minimum, and then we maintain that going forward. One of the key considerations, of course, is your membership structure. Specifically, current fees are only offered to Verona residents. Under each of these two cash flow scenarios, we developed an alternative scenario in which a pilot program was offered for the next 2 years to offer outside Verona residents from these specific communities listed here at a cost of $2,400 per family membership, the only level of membership for out-of-town customers, and 50 of those memberships available. Again, this is assuming that each of those 50 memberships are sold at the $2,400 per membership going forward. So the fee summary you'll see on the next slide and detailed in our report, assume that all of those are sold. And in each of those cases, you meet the cash flow of the two scenarios. One, immediately raising revenue. The second, phasing in that increase over 2 years. Slide 10 shows a summary of those scenarios, both including and not including out-of-town memberships. I'll focus on the 2025 year increase and go through each one of those. The top table is our scenario one, no use of fund balance, immediately increasing revenues with existing memberships, no out-of-town memberships. We're using your family membership, which is your most popular one, as a representative example here. That would be a 35% increase in 2025 which is approximately a $210 per family increase to generate the appropriate revenue. All other memberships would also increase by that 35% across the board. That is how you would get a cash flow neutral pool utility next year. Also shown in that is that scenario one with outside members, 2,400 each, 50 memberships available. That resulting increase on the inside family membership is about $90, which is about 15%. So that's the difference there in terms of relative to that pilot program and that policy. The second table shows the second scenario 2. We are using fund balance, so the fees are lower in the first 2 years. We are using pool existing fund balance to maintain the cash flow of the utility. The first year increase without outside memberships is 15%. The first year increase with outside memberships is 0%. So all of the revenue generated in that second scenario with outside memberships is essentially from the 50 out-of-town memberships. And you can see the forecast going forward of how those fees would have to change under those 2 cash flow scenarios. The last slide I have here shows the fund balance forecast under the 2 scenarios. Again, both with and without outside memberships, cash flow is essentially the same. Obviously, there's a fee impact relative to that decision. On the left side, immediately in fiscal year 25, we generate enough cash to not use fund balance, and that fund balance is increasing in these 5 years. Again, looking at the impact on the number of memberships given the cost, capital costs that may be increasing, operating costs that may be increasing, we are able to develop this scenario to be resilient to those types of changes. So although you're generating cash flow here, you're contributing to a capital reserve to complete capital projects at cost or possibly increase costs in the 5-year forecast. On the right-hand side, this is a scenario where you see the fund balance dips for those first 2 years. We're still contributing to a capital reserve. However, we are using the operating reserve to maintain the stability of the fund over the 2-year forecast. Beginning in fiscal year 27 is when the fund balance is stable and then generating cash flow in the 2 subsequent years of this forecast. Both of these scenarios are consistent with the fee increases we showed both with and without out-of-town members. The next several slides just show details of the fees based on those increases, so I think now is a good time to stop and answer any questions about the results.
I want to call for questions this time, not discussion, just questions to ask to clarify the presentation and the report. Councilman.
My biggest concern when we talk about pool membership rates, I use a phrase that the economics teacher over here loves, which is price elasticity of demand. My biggest concern always when we're managing the pool rates is there is a point at which not as many people will buy these memberships based on the price. Is there a methodology by which this can be forecast? Is it something where it's only a wait and see? Did you kind of consider this in your analysis?
It's certainly a wait and see. You are absolutely right. This is a very discretionary type of purchase for your customers, for your citizens. What we did not consider any elasticity in terms of a decrease in memberships because of the increased prices, but what we did, you can see, is forecasting out years generating cash flow. So this model would be able to withstand a certain level of that and maintain positive cash flow going forward. In order to keep things relatively simple, we did not venture a guess as to what that may be, but given what these results are, anything from a 3 to 5% decrease per, say, $100 increase in fees, if that's reasonable, we'd likely be able to build it into this forecast and maintain stability. It's not clear though.
And you sort of inherently answered my other question here as well. What if well, it does look like you have some wiggle room there that if we do dip below those levels, we'll still be, cash flow positive for those years. And then the other factor that goes into this is, we just had a fairly substantial fee increase this year, and we didn't really see, a substantial, negative impact on count of memberships. It does feel like people do see that there is some value here, but obviously these numbers are getting larger and larger relatively quickly.
Certainly, there's certainly a ceiling there. It was not last year's increase, because like you said, we used the 24 membership, which was an increase in the 23 membership to generate these forecasts. But you're right, we're sensitive to that in developing these forecasts. If we made this, cut to the bone that minimum and we weren't able to sustain some of that decrease, I don't think we'd be doing a good job. We wanted to build in a consideration of that without committing to any forecast.
And then also the out-of-town memberships, that $2,400 number is also a very large number, but it feels like a lot of, this proposal rests on the weight of being able to sell all of those. Is the cash flow model still resilient enough if out-of-town memberships were considered but did not actually sell? If that $2,400 number was a non-starter, because we have no back testing data on that at all.
It is. So again, we're building the full sale of those in this assumption, but again, that's relative to if you sell half of them, this model is still sustainable at that point. And your comment about the level of that fee, again, that is purely discretionary. We arrived at that using the only comparable community next door, and also it was a point at which we thought a reasonable forecast could be developed. This course is heavily dependent on it in those two scenarios in which you offer those chips.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that. I had the same question about how exactly the $2,400 came about, with Cedar Groves being $1,600, which I, in my opinion, is high already. If you could just give us a little idea of where that 2,400 came from, why was that picked as the number? That would certainly help.
Sure. So that number is approximately 3.5 times your current family membership, and it would be increasing based on the percentages that we saw here. We wanted to make it significant. We wanted to show that is a significant decision that alters these forecasts. We wanted to demonstrate that making that decision is important and it has an impact. It is a service that you would offer that is a very highly valuable service. You operate a very nice pool. We wanted to make it so that decision point was clear, and we didn't want it to make the impact of you sell all of those or not make or break the system or the forecast essentially.
My next question is, I think based on that, so this plays in, we're talking about the resilience of the model previously, but $2,400, and we can't really predict how many people. I can't imagine it'll be that many, to be honest. And that's one of my concerns with the report, but we're on questions now. Would you foresee the necessity of really, based on the assumptions of this report, having to write another report almost next year, the year after, because assuming we want to minimize use of fund balance, all these other items, do you see the potential that these numbers are going to be completely reviewed and reassessed shortly?
I wouldn't say completely, certainly partially. Yes, the number of memberships in each of your membership categories, regardless of your choice in the pilot program for Inside Outside, has a big impact. That's 95% of your revenues for $1 million utility. So yes, you would closely review that impact, do whatever you can to maintain that stability, understanding that the price signals may be defining that, and it's hard to know what's going to come next year.
Thank you. Okay, other questions for Eric?
I do have a couple, kind of a summary type question, but looking at this, basically our costs are going up at the pool utility $100,000. And obviously it's wages and all that go along with that. But we have to find another $200,000 because we have to make up for the money that we were getting. So I'm going through, I was reading the more detailed report and noticed, like, obviously our splash pad, that's going to be coming on in 27. That's actually half of that payment per year. It's $152,000 a year for 15 years. In the report, it said that rate that we would be getting for that would be 4.8% for about 1.6 million. Why is it that we have the pool resurfacing? In the report, it said that rate for the 570K would be at 4%. It seems like they're coming up in the same year. Is there a reason why there was? It's almost a whole percent difference in the financing. What is there a reason for that?
I have to go back and check. I think we were trying to target an estimated amount previously for that 1.6 million. We should certainly be consistent with those percentages. Again, the level of those percentages does not have a material impact. I know it's 1% on a significant amount of money. Within our model and within the scope of the utility as a whole, we wouldn't expect the results to change if we were to be consistent either up or down that percentage.
You're gonna have a slight variation because we have bond anticipation notes first, and then we have to actually bond out, and the interest rates will be slightly different due to the timing of the projects, right?
Sure.
Any other questions?
There were other more minor ones that I had, but I'm not gonna get them now.
Yeah, you have the floor. If you,
No, I'm okay with it.
Councilman?
Thank you. I think, I guess my question is, was there, so this was an excellent report. Thank you. And thank you for all of the cash flow analysis and the questions that my colleagues asked. One thing that I was curious on, but it wasn't addressed in this report, is the relative proportion of our different rate classes, and then sort of any analysis looking at utilization by different rate class, because clearly we have had swipes, and how would that possibly impact rates? I mean, you know, there's a science to rate making, and what should seniors be charged versus a couple versus family, and what is it all based off of, even though the majority of the memberships are family. So can you touch on why that wasn't one kind of focus in your analysis?
Sure. So in our scope, it was sort of taken as a given the current rate structure and forecasting it forward. We did look at some unit costs on an hourly basis, about per person per hour type costs, but we didn't utilize that to make any conclusion about what those differences would be. Our scope included the assumption that those adopted rates reflected certain policy considerations of the council, and that you were comfortable with. And in order to keep our cash flow modeling as straightforward as possible and isolate the impact of the fee increases, we took those as a given. So we didn't want to interject any, policy recommendation that, one type of customer should pay more or less than they are paying. We took your lead on that, and assuming the rates that were adopted reflected your preferred arrangement of those fees.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to reserve my questions for the policy presentation.
Good. Any comments regarding the report? I think we have received a report. There is a fair, if any council members desire to see something additional, obviously we have a second presentation. It would be helpful to provide some administration, some feedback after seeing both. So we'll talk about that, because there are definitely some items that we're going to want to hear more about in order to make decisions. So, all right, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
It's a robot.
Good evening, everyone. I just plugged this in. Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for your presentation. That was great. Working with Eric and Aiden over the past few months has been a very eye-opening experience in a positive way. So tonight we are going to go through a little bit more of the scope of the pool in terms of the salary and wages that our staff receives, some of the policies in place, and also some of the fee recommendations that we are going to look at for the next year. So with that being said, okay. So the first thing we are going to touch on is salary and maintenance, salary and wages, sorry. I am going to try to keep the first third of this quick because a lot of the wages and fees are things that we've done in years past, and it's just a quick explanation overview how we are going to proceed. Okay. So for office and maintenance, we're going to keep the same scale that has existed for several years. The first year of employment, these individuals start with minimum wage, and which is set by the state of New Jersey, which should be finalized later this calendar year. Each subsequent year, we have an increase of 25 cents, except for the fourth year, which we do go up by $1, and that is due to the experience and value of the employee that we've seen over the years. Lifeguards, the increases are the exact same. They do start with $1 more than minimum wage due to the responsibility required and the additional certifications. This is the hourly wage for the, excuse me, the management team. They have an hourly wage that is going to now be tied to the minimum wage with a slight departure from what we did last year. When the season starts, they receive given amounts above minimum wage. And in subsequent years, they would receive standard 2% increases. These hourly wages are only utilized when managers are performing duties outside of their typical 35-hour work week.
Let's throw about just a question. Do we currently have a pool grounds manager, or is this the assumption of a new?
I'm sorry, a grounds
It
manager?
says there's a pool grounds manager as one of the hourly wages, one of the manager wages.
We currently do not. There was last year we had it was kind of a crossover position that was all encompassing. This individual managed the office. He would come in on his own time and paint some things that were that didn't look great out of his own pocket. So that's going to be a manager position that we're looking to confirm this year, kind of shifted last year in real time. We've always had 4 manager positions. Okay. Now, in addition to the stipends, the managers will be able to earn small increases with various certifications. The last few years, we've had on-site pool training for all employees, and some of the certifications are certified pool operator, lifeguarding, WSI water safety instructor, and lifeguard management. Okay. In addition, to the managers, we also have swim instructors, and we do have a head maintenance position. The swim coaches earn a small increase should they have valid certification and safety training for swim coaches. All of these can be obtained through the American Red Cross. The swim coach stipend is slightly increased this year, contingent upon experience from the previous year. We do propose assistant swim coaches receive a small 50-cent increase above their lifeguard wage for coaching.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I think your presentation was just one slide off. So from what you've advanced for the viewers at home. So I think, are we on swim instructor and head maintenance as your next slide? I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, I apologize.
Yep, it's all right. Just
Sorry.
for those at home, I just wanted to make sure they saw the same data that you're referencing.
Yeah, so now we should be on playground staff.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
So for the playground staff, it's a similar scale to maintenance and the office. The position increases 25 cents annually, except for supervisors. Supervisors do receive a 2% increase each year. Each year, the staff does have an opportunity to apply for an advanced position, and that position again will increase their wage based on experience and position.
Councilman Holland?
Thank you. So this presentation is about the community pool staffing, and I found it confusing, the reference to the playground staff, because my understanding is that that's a recreation program that's separate from the community pool. And while I do understand that they come to the pool and that, you know, maybe you would want to factor in a fee associated with that, I was struggling to understand why the salaries of the playground staff counselors were included in a pool budget and fee conversation.
It was originally we were doing summer, so summer staff. So it is in line with the non-lifeguard positions. It was just in there for information. We know this is not what we're covering the playgrounds. It was just an informational slide.
Well, that's helpful. So you are, just to confirm, saying that we would not be then paying for the playground staff out of the pool utility budget?
No.
Great.
We're not. And to wrap up the playgrounds, the certification to the supervisors, they do get an increase of $5 per hour if they are a certified teacher. So these are strictly pool policy amendments that, as Eric said earlier, they are a wide array of things we're looking at to operate the pool as financially responsible as possible. First thing we're going to look at for the pool and policies is to examine the splash pad hours and the early access. Separate from the rest of the community pool, the splash pad is open for 2 hours per day, Monday through Friday. The average attendance for those hours has been 8 members per hour, roughly just under 16 patrons per day. Reducing these hours at the splash pad and the baby pool and keeping it only open during regular operating hours has the potential to save the town $8,500 in 2025. We do recommend examining this. I think we should, talking with pool management and the office, we propose that we amend the hour to 2 to 3 days per week. Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Is it, when you say 16 patrons per day, is it 16 families per day?
No, when
It's
I
like-
walk in as a Robotham family,
Yes,
we click how many people I'm with.
okay.
So if it's just me and say my daughter, it's 2. So this is actual patrons at the,
And where would you say, besides the opening materials that we get as members, where would you say these hours are advertised to members?
this past year on the website, on the initial information flyer, they're in the rules. Okay. So the next slide is for private rentals.
So you skip for.
No, I think you
see
should
why.
correct.
Yes,
That's
sorry. Okay. The next thing the next item we are looking at over the course of the next few months is transformation of the Rec tent. The Rec tent is a wonderful amenity for the pool to have. It's a great place catering to mostly children. It does not, unfortunately, have the numbers that it might have years ago. It has definitely gone down in attendance since I have been in Verona since 2017. And looking at the Rec 10, it doesn't drive revenue. If we do not have Rec 10 employees, we can still open the pool. That's not the case with some other areas. So what we are looking at doing is transforming the Rec Tent into a ADA physically compliant facility that could be a safe space for children who learn differently. This is contingent on securing grants for the physical renovations and possibly the hourly wages. We are going to put in for 3 grants that we are hopeful that we can obtain some of the money. There's a window of awards. One is up in October that we are going to apply for at the end of the month. One's in December, and one is early 2025.
Councilman Roma had a question.
Do you feel that that's long-term sustainable as a recurring source of revenue for your operating expenses above and beyond your conversion costs?
It would have to be evaluated, year to year. I think turning that area into an ADA compliant area can benefit the township long-term, yes.
It's just a question of whether or not, you're able to obtain an operating expense grant your first year and then it's back to, coming out of your OpEx budget.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I think you'd have to figure out what the operation would be. It seems like it would cut back to an extent from what we're doing now. Councilman McGrath?
Thank you. How do you measure attendance?
At the Rec Tent?
Yeah.
We asked the manager there to give us a report each day, and it comes in weekly as to how many residents were up at the Rec Tent and or participated in the different activities they ran.
So as a follow-up, could we get a copy of the summary from this last year? That would be great.
Okay. All right, so the township offers preseason parties for nonprofits and township organizations. What we are looking at going to this year is being able to field parties from private organizations for preseason rentals when the pool is not open. That's part of the membership. We will go over the fees later. Another potential way of revenue for the township to create revenue is a nominal fee for family night. Family night's been very well attended. It is a great service. There are several programs that the township runs at the pool that is more of a service, and it is not generating a profit. By adding some of these nominal fees, we are able to keep those costs down, such as water aerobics, swim team, and we'll discuss what the operating costs of those are in a little bit.
Deputy Mayor?
So, Dave, can I go back one to the private rentals? You don't have to do the slide, but just a question. Since we're talking about like May, June, and September, is there any difficulty in staff? Because I know, obviously, we all know we use a lot of college.
Pre-season, we could staff it. September would be difficult. We've yet to do that. So some of the private rental, some of the townships that do private rentals, they have the company provide staffing. That could be an option where they're not paying for our staffing operational costs. They're bringing their own lifeguards. but September would be a challenge. I think May and June would be a lot more feasible for our employees.
Councilman Hahn?
Thank you. Can you refresh my recollection? What are the times? So it's the 4 to 8 p.m. for the family night?
Yes.
That's the admission. So the price that a resident would pay for that admission would be for that 4-hour window?
Correct, for a family.
Okay, so it would be that flat fee for up to what? Like, are you proposing like 4 to 6 people?
Well, if we are going to go with the fee, then we have more numbers. Then we do have the numbers from each family night. And we would work out a nominal fee. We were thinking $25 per family of 4.
Okay, so I just want to, I would like us to think about how this interacts with some of the other passes that we have. For example, the day pass and others. So if it ends up being $25 for 4 hours on a family night evening, is that really worth it? Or does somebody buy a day pass and then they just get like the whole day? I later on in the presentation, you have comments about, the concerts as well. So I just want to note that my comment would remain for that as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the rescue squad firefighter membership. Although having those members at the pool is invaluable at a time of need, in case of an emergency, over the course of the past 5 to 7 years, the price of operating the pool has grown astronomically. When I first started, a first-year employee made $7.25. That starting wage will be over $15 an hour in 2025. So again, this is just another area where we are hoping or looking to charge a nominal fee where some of those, we're not going to make up the $200,000 in one broad stroke, but looking at different areas where we can make a few $1,000s here and there, can close that gap and get us closer to running the pool financially sustainably.
Deputy Mayor?
One quick question, and I know I spoke to you today about this. I'm not going to go back and tell you what I got paid as a recreation employee when I started, but that's a whole nother. But going to the rescue squad and firefighters, because we now swipe in at the gate, can we provide us with the number of, 135 individuals, but how many of them actually use the pool facility? So if we can get that, that'd be very helpful for us moving forward, making our decision.
How many swipes they have?
Yep.
Yes. I have a call into Capture Point. They are working on it.
Thank you.
Pardon
Councilman?
me. So can I just, as a point of clarification, when we say the 135, that's individuals, not memberships? Because there's been a point of confusion of that at the rec committee at times.
So when a family of 3 has a firefighter and they get a membership, there are 3 firefighter rescue squad memberships awarded to said family of 3.
So the answer is 135 people.
Total memberships.
Great,
yes.
Thank you. When to your point 2, which I really thank you for providing this additional clarification, because historically the complimentary memberships have been identified as an incentive for volunteerism, but you're identifying here that there's actually a use for the first responders at the pool in addition to all of our certified staff. Is there an offset then to when we're offering this complimentary membership? Does that in any way offset like the number of employees at the pool?
Well, no, because we can't predict who's coming when, and there are certain guidelines that we need to follow to keep the pool staffed properly. Again, although very helpful in the time of a potential crisis or emergency, it's not something that we could rely on at this point in time, the way it's structured, to offset, say, the need for X amount of lifeguards or you know,
Okay, well, thank you for that. Also, I know that you're very familiar with it, that the rec committee did have different recommendations regarding some of the fee structures, including this and some of your other recommendations. Were those considered in developing this policy document? So they were just all rejected because I don't see most of them in this document.
no, there's a few that we, with the guest books and some of the gazebo things that we thought we could utilize and move forward with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the out-of-town memberships. Sorry, did I skip one again?
No, you're good.
Okay, the out-of-town memberships, this would be a pilot program of 50 family memberships. This is something that, depending on the number, coming from New Gen, the third party company that did this to keep the pool self-sustaining, we would be on board with this pilot program. Yes.
Council, I'm sorry.
I saw somewhere else, but it's not on this slide, that part of this pilot program would be that current pool member needs to sponsor an out-of-town member. I don't know where I read that.
I saw the same.
That was in the more detailed, the
Yeah.
one that we got.
So is that your recommendation, that there's a level of sponsorship? So
Yes,
yes.
we would,
So someone has to know someone who's a current pool member to be, if it turns out that there is the out-of-town member does not follow the pool rules, would that reflect on the Verona member?
we haven't gotten
That's
to the point.
And why not Montclair? Because that is a very big community. Why are they not on the list? Like, they're very frustrated with their public pools,
Yeah.
at least as I read on Facebook.
I think
And a lot of them are joining another country club that actually our people have said, like, our pool is way nicer than that.
right.
We would actually be competitive with a country club. That's our pool's that great.
I think the towns listed were the ones that we got the most information from in terms of the fee structures for the neighboring towns. I don't think we
Okay.
would be opposed
Okay.
offering it to an additional town if it, again, increased revenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman,
We were talking a little bit about the source of the revenue dollar figure, and I was thinking, did we actually look at private country clubs or other recreational facilities as to what a family might spend for a monthly membership? I just, I don't know.
Not country clubs, but yes, we did look at the neighboring towns for their municipal pools. And where we fell in line with that, and the one town, Cedar Grove, that does allow out of town family memberships and what they charge.
I mean, I would be curious about, since I do believe that our municipal pool is truly actually a better facility than, most other municipal pools in the area. I would be curious to know what people are paying for, a membership at some sort of private recreational facility. Obviously, there's going to be social events and other things that we don't offer, and
Right.
we don't have a golf course or anything like that. But I'm curious if there's any kind of comparable facility that would be interesting to know what those rates might be like for something with a pool.
Yeah, that's something we could definitely take a look at.
Deputy Mayor.
Just a comment, this would have been nice, obviously timing is everything, we didn't have this. But when we put the pool survey out at the end of the year, it would have been nice to say, hey, this is what rates might go up to. Or would you prefer, I know we had it in a prior and people were against.
When the pool survey was constructed, we didn't have as many specifics. We are in the process of drafting a very specific survey to send to the membership with this fee structure. And we would like to get it out shortly.
And lastly, second, if we do move forward with this, talking about, you need someone to sponsor you. Does it have to, it's not gonna be just someone that's a pool member. Could it be someone who's a Verona resident?
That's a work in progress. I wouldn't be able to give a definitive
It
answer.
honestly sounds a little too country clubbish for my taste, and I would not endorse that as a pool. Just putting that out there now before we spend a lot of time talking about that. People should be able to you know, it's one of those things that sounds a little elitist, and there might be some discriminatory practices that are unfortunately a consequence of that. Very good.
Also look to expand the concert series at the pool. This past summer, we had a great turnout with the concert that we ran at the pool, and that was actually during one of the slower times with a lot of people taking their family vacation due to the dead period with summer sports. And we had over 1,000 people attend the concert at the pool that night. We propose a Friday night concert in June that is not covered by your purchase of your family individual senior pool membership. The money generated this concert again would be able to offset some of those programs like the twilight aerobics, the waves, the mini waves, and once we got to about 300 paid attendees for the night of the concert, everyone after 300 at a rate of $20 per head would generate a profit and cover the cost of the evening.
I have a question. So when you say a Friday in June, and it's not going to be part of, for example, a family membership of approximately $815. You're envisioning this to be pre-season, right? When we're just open for the weekends, this would be a Friday night before the major event.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's more palatable. And you said $20. I thought I saw later it was $30. But I can confirm that.
Yeah, Upton was out of town, $75.
There were.
Yeah, I think, but you'll get to your fee slides, but that was helpful because that was a point of clarification I had, which was, were you going to, like, logistics of doing this, you were going to empty out the pool of the existing members. So the only way this works is that you're doing it pre-season.
Correct.
And would you then have sufficient staffing for that? Because part of the reason why the pool isn't open full time at that point is because of your staffing concerns.
Yeah, we would be able to staff it just like the parties, and it would be in later June when most of the college students are home. I don't know, I don't have the information personally as to why it's not open fully full-time. I would imagine that Verona Public Schools are still in session, and we open the day after they close, as opposed to just being able to fully staff it.
Okay, but so just circling back though, you would still be doing this Friday night before school's out of session.
Correct.
So
it would not interfere with full-time.
Thank you.
So you said, I'm sorry, you said your break-even point you thought was at 300 attendees.
Correct.
Event. So there's a possibility that an event could lose money.
Possibility.
Yeah.
But again, the concert we had for family night, which there was no fee, we had about 1,000 attendees.
Sorry. I think we can do the age restriction and skip the disciplinary action piece. I'm not as concerned about age restriction.
You want to just go through the fees?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of this is policy stuff that isn't really.
But I think we should do the age restriction.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also had a comment about the disciplinary action just because it seemed out of order.
Okay. So for the age restriction, this is for the overall safety of the pool. Out of 70 reported instances with the pool managers, 50 of those instances dealt with 12 and 13-year-olds who were attending the pool by themselves without a parent there. The beginning of the season, that was our overwhelming majority of the behavioral concerns we had. So moving forward, we would like to raise the entrance age from 12 to 14 for 2025.
Do you have a breakdown of how many of those 50 are 12 and how? Because I saw this and I just kind of started laughing because those of us, I don't know if you're at the last couple of council meetings, but a lot of our birthdays are August, September. I was 13 years old the summer I graduated from 8th grade, going into the pool, and obviously the last thing I wanted was to have to go to the pool with my parents. So I think 13 would be okay, because you're talking about young adults that are now going into high school,
Right.
some of them. So I mean, that's just that's a tough. So
When you have,
they're certainly not going to the pool with their parents. Put it that way.
when you have the staff who are disciplining them who are 2 years older, so there isn't that much of a difference between
Yeah.
those ages.
So 12, I could say yes, probably, but 13, I kind of have to say maybe we should split that. I don't.
That's our suggestion. That's
Oh,
where we
fine.
ran into, a lot of the issues this summer. So, looking to keep the pool as safe as possible.
Yeah,
That was our recommendation.
I think a lot of this is more for knowledge for us, but I'm just going to throw out there, I don't think it's really the role of the governing body to be as intricately involved in the decisions or to micromanage, and the administration really should be doing this. And I think I think we might be getting to the weeds a little too much on certain items. So I would hope that we would consider the town administration as thought through these things and can adequately rule make and recommend.
Mayor, just one quick, do current 13-year-olds get grandfathered in if they change?
Leave that to the lawyers to figure out. All right, Robotham, let's move.
So do we want to go to the finance?
I just want to point out that you've got a reprimand before a warning. That seems to be out of order. A reprimand is like an official rebuke, and how that then relates to a call to somebody's parent, I'm not sure where. I think it depends on who your parent is. If it was my parent, that would definitely be worse than somebody officially rebuking me. But I think a warning needs to go before a reprimand. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the administration's support on that.
I would also, just in general, I would kind of agree with the comment that the administration and rulemaking for the pool is an administrative function of the township, even though we passed those, by policy here. But I agree that we don't necessarily need to micromanage kind of the rulemaking. I'm probably a little bit more interested in just going through financial structure and kind of maybe, I don't know whether we're ready to give opinions on fees. But that's going to be kind of the biggest point of us managing the pool, I think, is finance.
Yes, Councilman McGrath.
sorry. Before we advance though too quickly, I really do want to go through the hours because part
We
of,
haven't gotten to the hours yet.
yeah, well, I believe it's the next slide.
Next slide. So let's let Mr.
Okay.
Robotham actually talk about the hours.
Well, he had advanced because he was hearing some of the comments, so I do want to talk about the hours because it goes to the value of what that membership is, and a lot of the feedback we get on the annual survey is about when is the pool open, so we covered the splash pad hour, so I am curious to have this conversation, so thank you.
All right, so for the hourly amendments, we're looking that the Sundays before we open full time to close at 7 p.m. since the bulk of our staff are students and some of our managers are teachers. This is between Memorial Day and the last day of school. And we are looking to close the pool at 6 p.m. The Monday of Labor Day, with school opening the Tuesday, the day after in 2025. So we're just looking to keep that in line. Okay. So with the in-town and out-of-town memberships, there are two sets of prices that were established by NewGen. We work closely with them to generate these numbers and their proposal moving forward. Working with them moving forward will have our full support. Okay, so some of the adjustments for the POS items, including the guest passes, we want to bring back the guest booklets, which will be sold pre-season in blocks of 11 instead of 6. The other change is a gazebo rental, which is a slight increase. Everything else is going to stay the same. So, moving on, talking about some of those prices for the services that we run for in-town programs such as water aerobics, going to the pool as a member of the playground. There's three major programs that we run and dedicate the price and submit the price for. We have morning and twilight aerobics. The current cost of that program per person is $178.93. We currently only charge $50 for this program. The price per person for the evening program is $251. Again, we charge $50 per person. We are looking at an increase in both of these programs, and having some of those preseason parties can offset where that number lands, but this is an informative number to know where our break-even point is for those programs. The next one, thankfully, is a little more palatable. In the past, we've not charged for the trip to the summer playgrounds to the pool. Moving forward, we recommend that if you sign the pool permission slip as a member of the summer playgrounds, it is a $21 or $22 fee to cover the cost, which is $21.51, in addition to summer playgrounds.
But if you're a member of the pool, you wouldn't be assessed that fee. If you have a family membership to the pool, you wouldn't be assessed the fee to go with the summer playground, or you say
yes, and it's separate. It would be charged with your registration, and it goes to the pool because this is separate hours. This is not when the pool is open full time. This is before the pool opens.
Okay.
And it's just a one-time flat $21.51, or it's not per visit?
No.
Okay.
It would be a flat fee like a field trip.
Just out of curiosity, where'd that number come from? That seems like a oddly specific number for an annual pass when we don't have a current price.
The $21.51, yeah. Based on the pool for that hour that they're there, there's 4 to 5 different programs. So based on the hourly cost for operating and the employment staff, we divided it by 5. And for the amount that we had signed up last year for the pool, that's what the cost would be per child, $21.51.
Thank you.
I think they skipped waves.
Okay. So for the Verona Waves, this is another program that runs during the morning. Again, this program has been undercharged for the past few years. Our break-even point is $201.83 per registrant based on growing pool costs. This price has not been raised significantly. We are proposing to raise this price to $100 for 2025.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it would have been helpful to know what the prices are now for all of these slides. So what are they being charged now?
For the waves, they're $60.
Okay, so and I believe we did raise it recently. So you're saying to go to 60 to 100?
Yes.
So just a general comment on the last few slides. I mean, for all of our recreation programs, we haven't done this analysis, and I know that that may be something you're working on, but the cost of every program, and then what are we charging in fees? So you're basically recommending to this governing body or signaling this is kind of a first round for the pool. Correct. Of really kind of doing this recreation analysis that we have not really seen, or we haven't seen in a really long time for all of our other programs that are not pool related.
We are, after we're finished with getting all the numbers accurate for the pool, we've already done the first quarter of rec programs. We are going to continue and do the rest of the 2024 calendar year.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just get a point of, you said $100, but it says 201 on the slide?
Yeah, that's the price to cover. And we're currently well under that.
Okay, so this isn't.
It's a per person cost.
So this is the cost, not the fee that would be associated.
No, we're looking to recommend $100 for the fee.
Okay, this is a confusing slide then. Thank you.
Okay, the next is the Cougars Pool Rental. That's a program that rents the facility Monday through Friday, 2 hours early in the morning, for the length of the summer once we open full time. Again, the new way we come up with these numbers, we looked at when the pool is open, and we take all of the costs, chlorine, the water bill, all of our energy costs, staffing costs, and we come up with a number per hour that we're open, not for the full length of the summer when we fill it to when we empty it, when we're open and when we can bring in revenue. The cost of the Cougar program that we recommend, since they use 25% of our facility, is option number 2, which is a significant increase. Last year, off the top of my head, I think we charged them around $8,400. So, and this would be to cover the cost of the 2 hours per day, Monday through Friday. Next slide is for our Verona Recreation Department, working with local nonprofits to host pool parties at the pool. This is pre-season before the pool is open full time. With increasing labor costs, we propose to charge $413.17 per hour for each party. This is the operating cost just to have the pool open. A standard party of 250 people would be charged $857 per hour. So the standard 7 levels for said party. I know there was a question about the staff that we utilize to keep the pool safely open. This encumbers 16 lifeguards for a party, 2 managers during regular operating hours is only 1, 4 office staff, and 2 maintenance. For the preseason party.
What is the necessity of having 2 managers on duty for a party that seems to have fewer attendees than you would normally have attendees of the pool?
Each party is different, but a lot of them do require help with, say, check-in or things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily want a 15, 16-year-old to do. On top of that, the managers, they're not getting an hourly fee here. This is already included in their stipend. So they're helping supplement the staff.
Okay. Councilwoman Brown.
It would be helpful as a follow-up item to have a list of all of the pool parties from last year. Sure. And what were they were charged and what their attendance was.
Yep.
So all of the preseason parties, any special events that may have happened also during the pool season. And then if there were anything post, because I know in the past we had like a seniors party, and I know that's not necessarily what you're talking about here, but this is a sensitive issue, obviously, because a lot of these are nonprofits that are targeted to children. They're nonprofits in Verona. Some of them are doing a lot of community service. So I think the whole council would benefit from seeing, just really understanding the scope of these parties, the size of them, and what they paid last year, which I know was an increase from the year prior.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this would be the proposed cost for the private pool rental. We propose charging an operating cost of 150% cost plus 100% in order to achieve the price for a private pool rental. First, this is for a standard 250 person party. This would roughly cost, not roughly, I apologize, $3,215.21. And I apologize. I do see the 30 per Verona resident. It should have been 20. That's a mistake. I apologize for the family night concert series.
Well, I mean, are you revising the recommendation? Does it actually make you whole faster if you have $30 versus the $20 per family? Or is it?
We went over this, it's per person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it now, this is a mistake.
Okay.
So we don't want to go over the rule amendments, we can just skip past all of them.
Well, I think everybody read them. Does anybody have any questions on these?
Let me just look through my notes. I think I just have a global comment.
We'll keep comments for good order.
Well, it's a question, really. It's a global question for some of these recommendations. So my question is, for example, how are you going to track some of this to make sure that you can actually enforce the rules that you're recommending? So you earlier in the slides, you had your multiple like warning and reprimand scale. You've got proposed diving board restrictions if somebody's messing around on the diving board. All of this is good policy, I agree, but how do you actually enforce it and track it when kids are at the pool? Like, do you make a note on a membership or something? How would that work? And, you know, whether that's been considered at this time, because, you know, the rules are going to be only as good as their ability to be enforced.
And good question. Last year was the first year that we kept track of them. We kept track of them with a date, with a name in the manager's office. All the managers, myself, and the recreation office were privy to them. It was not discussed with the staff, but there was a log of individuals that had, you know, a serious consequence. We kept a running tally. There is the ability to keep a family note that's confidential within Community Pass. We have not utilized that feature. It is something that we can consider based upon the recommendation moving forward.
And my only other question, I apologize, was with regard to the new rule on the swim lessons. So private swim lessons are going to be conducted by public employees, the VCP lifeguards. Then they're going to be organized through private channels directly through the lifeguard, but then paid through the front office at the community pool. My concern there is that you're going to have communications that are done on personal devices, possibly by like 15 and 16-year-olds. So I think, you know, perhaps, well, my question is really whether or not you've worked with the clerk or with the township attorney to make sure that any OPRA issues have been addressed.
Have not at this point, something we can look into moving forward. The fees are always paid for at the front desk, and the communication goes through the front office, and they just arrange the time when the lifeguard is not working, because they cannot give lessons when they're during an actual shift.
Then maybe it just needs to be clarified. The way it had been described at rec committee meetings is that, you know, it's like text messages and stuff like that with the lifeguard.
I can reach out to confirm, but it's still documented through the office.
Okay. So just please make sure that OPRA concerns are addressed.
We'll move on to the last section, sorry, for membership growth. What the rec department is looking to do is, as much as we send out the mass emails, and this year we're hoping to be able to send them out earlier and more often. When we send those out through Community Pass, for the most part, they're only going to people who are already pool members. We are looking to get residents that have not tried the pool and may be considering it. So with that said, we are looking to open or start a Verona specific Instagram account. We're going to have to go through administration to make sure we're doing all of that correctly. Because the rec department, the pool especially, there are certain things where, although we do have a public information officer and she does a wonderful job, there's so many time sensitive specific things to the pool, maybe on a weekend or at the evening with weather closures, that, you know, it would be something that maybe outside the scope of their traditional day, and that we would like to have for the dissemination, to make the dissemination of information more streamlined. Another thing that we are proposing is for early registration to have a survey ready and vetted to pool members that sign up prior to April 15th, almost like a suggestion box that they can let the pool administration, the town administration, know what they would like to see with the pool opening. Our biggest goal is, again, to gain exposure to our target market, which is non-members. And by doing this, maybe we can see what their expectations are as a first-year pool member with that initial survey. In order to encourage registration, you hear the public. Again, we would like to send the initial season feedback, and we would like to keep that going throughout the season instead of maybe a mid-year one, maybe once a month, to make sure that the pool membership is being heard and we're adapting and pivoting in a timely manner to their needs.
Thank you. Right. Let me relax for a second, Mr. Roboto. Discussion from the council just on some thoughts, and we might be able to provide an insight of what we're thinking right now.
Sure.
I'm going to take the unusual step of starting in this process because I largely haven't been as much a participant as others yet. But sit down, Dave. Just relax for a little while. And then, take note of whatever. This, I think, my comments go to Mr. Robotham, administration, our new gen. Well, I appreciate the detailed report, especially from new gen and this item. It is a lot to digest as far as doing this. I think the report and this item leave me with a lot more questions than answers in certain circumstances. I am very, very, very concerned about basing a potential pricing strategy on an out-of-town membership that costs $2,400 for a season. I think the number doesn't make much sense to me as far as the number seems to be more to me a number to keep people from joining the pool from out of town than to actually attract people to do this. So I think that the council needs to make, before we really proceed, and I need to see some numbers on it, I think the council needs to have a preliminary discussion on whether we want to have out-of-town members and at what point we are going to assess them for that membership before we can reasonably look at pricing strategy with this assumption associated with it. I think $2,400 is we have a beautiful pool, but part of the only way we make money on that is if people actually take memberships out, right? And going back to Councilman Roman's point about the price elasticity of demand, which is one of my favorite things, I think our attractiveness on this is going to be pretty limited. 2,400, especially when we have a neighboring pool that is charging 16. Now, like everything related to Zero Grove, our facilities are superior, but the reality of it is, are they $800 more superior? Are people who basically want for a pool environment somewhere for children to recreate, for adults to exercise, people to relax, is it going to entice them enough what we offer? The splash pad is one of the big differences between the two facilities, and that really only applies to a very small fraction of our population, right? That is probably the big difference in some of the recreation facilities, having been to EMS drills and things at Cedar Grove, so I'm familiar with their facility. But at the same point, I think we are pricing ourselves out. So in my opinion, I know that members in the past have said, listen, we'd rather pay more than have out-of-town members. At the same point, like, how much more do you want to pay? Assuming that we don't use fund balance, we're talking about a 35% increase in fees in the first year. which I think most of us would probably be less inclined to approve. But at the same point, that 35% increase based on the numbers that NewGen provided is going to happen no matter what. It's just in how many years it's going to happen, right? So, and that even with that fee, it's on the assumption we're going to have 50 family memberships that, you know, $120,000 of our revenue will come from these out-of-town memberships. If not, we're talking about a significantly higher increase, right? So I think we need to answer that question first. You know, and secondly, we've discussed some of the elements of the pool that apply to smaller groups, like the splash pad and the rec tent that, you know, might have a new thought, which I think is helpful. I think we should also consider having a base fee and then having additional fees. So whereas if, you know, we have these extra 2 hours, you can come in early to use the splash pad or whatever, which is attractive to families with smaller children, but we could charge a fee for that, for the additional hours. If we're getting some benefit, we could charge that and it'll offset, and then we could always do it out. If we have 100 people that are willing to pay this fee, then we'll open it up 2 hours early, right? But have threshold points. We don't want to have it and then let people pay, and then we're suffering a loss. So I think we need to think creatively about how we structure, like, are you interested in this? And we'll let you know if it goes and not assess the fee until everybody goes. I think the other piece of this, and this is something that I've asked for multiple times, and I have not received, and I'm not going to approve any pool rates until I see it at this point, is I need to have a clear picture of how many employees are working at the pool at a given time, whether it's maintenance, the office, the managers, lifeguards, and what they're doing at any given time. The one part of this that we have not really discussed is economies of staff and sort of having things open. Is there a time that, you know, do we need exactly how many staff we have? What are our staff doing? And I think that is a big part of that, being that aside from water and chemicals, personnel is our most significant cost, like anything in government. And we haven't really had a discussion about that and what we're actually doing. And I know that there is a concern that if you reduce staff and something happens, well, then that could potentially lead to some kind of, you know, legal claim. But people will pay for anything. At the same point, if we have some data to suggest that you know, this is a safe staffing ratio, that would offset any of those issues. But in my opinion, I think we need to really decide the out of town piece first, what number we would feel comfortable with as a council, and then let that inform the actual physical numbers that we get from NewGen and see that report revised. I don't consider this a final draft of a report, I'm going to be honest. There are a number of things missing. I also think that some of the assumptions in Mr. Robotham presentation were not addressed in the NewGen presentation. So we need to have a conversation on that side as well. And I also really want to hear from the rec committee on all of these items. And I think the PowerPoint is helpful, but we need an executive summary piece of this as well. We have this item. What are our recommendations? Do we have a yes or no vote from our rec committee chairperson is in the room? Do we have an up or down on this? Why not? If it's a no, let's talk about why. And if it's something's a yes, then I think the council's really gonna have to show a significant burden to not approve something if the administration and the rec committee have recommended the same thing. I think it's fine if the committee and the administration disagree as coming from different backgrounds, and really go from there. So I think we have a lot more work to do at this point before we can have a substantive conversation on rates, because I'm not sure we're at the point where we can meet the assumptions that are suggested in the study. And I'll hold any other comments so I allow other people to speak. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I consider this a historic meeting because I believe you said start adding additional fees for the mayor to say
for additional service. For additional service.
I think that obviously the simple thing here is that we need to come up with more money. So we do it by raising fees, or we do it by allowing others to use the pool from outside of Verona. So that is definitely something that we really need to dive into and talk about. I do think if we put 50 memberships out there, I think we will get the return in no time at all. I think people from around here would love to be in Verona. I think it would take away from the neighbors' pools, but we're solving our problems. The end of your presentation, Rob, excuse me, Dave, your presentation was fantastic. I always love getting information. The last couple slides, you talk about trying to boost membership. I think one way we can do that is we had this last year about people talking about the price of the private parties that we do. And a lot of them are for local groups in Verona. And I'm going to go to Councilman Roman's statement that you don't want to price them out and have them have those preschool parties at another place. I think we want to have end of year parties at Verona Pool. Maybe that's a way to attract or get out to Verona residents how great the pool is by maybe keeping that price low and getting the entire, maybe put that out to the schools. Hey, bring the second grade class or first grade class, and the kids will see the pool and go home and tell mom and dad, this pool is great. We want to join the pool. So we may get more memberships that way. So instead of maybe raising the price for them, maybe we lower it to entice more of those groups to come in and use the pool early in the year. And then maybe we would gain, I really think we would gain memberships by that, and we would get the word out there about the pool. So that's just my quick thought on that. Obviously, we have a lot to go through, a lot we got tonight, and I thank both of you for your presentations tonight. Very much appreciated. That's all.
Councilman Roman?
I may make an unorthodox suggestion here. The paid pool concert is very interesting. If you truly wanted to actually move the revenue needle here, we had a concert where we sold alcohol. That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah, I don't know, in the parking lot or something like that. You almost do you almost do like a fundraiser for the pool. That's if you truly wanted to put some large dollar amount on the books, not the greatest thing in the world.
Well, the country clubs do it.
Yeah.
I mean, charging what they are.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to charge a fee, that's honestly, if you want to put a lot of money on the books, maybe you do something like that, where it's basically a fundraiser for the pool. It's an idea. I worry about us getting too far into the weeds. We need to come up with revenue for the pool. Obviously, this is a big chunk of money. I really, really do worry about pricing people out and then having the negative effect of losing out. And that's, we have to kind of feel out where that point is. I was worried about that this year. It didn't come to fruition. I do think, 35% increase in a single year is rate shock and might have that effect. So I did like NewGen's strategy of using fund balance to kind of smooth that out. Normally I don't like using fund balance for things like that, but this is one of those rare ones where, that may make sense. And then the same thing with the out of town memberships. I mean, it's again, we all kind of have our sort of our breaking point at which we're willing to do something that otherwise we wouldn't. Do I believe that we're going to sell memberships at $2,400 a piece? I don't know. That's why I kind of asked the question about what recreational facilities, other rec facilities would charge that are not municipal pools. It would be interesting to kind of know that number. If you could put that amount of money on the books, I mean, that's really my concern here, is being able to sustainably operate the pool. And to me, that really requires large chunks of money. Kind of talking about the small fees and cost recovery and so on is important as well, but that doesn't get us up to the six-figure dollar amounts that we really do need to be talking here. We need to be, kind of thinking big here rather than thinking small. I think it's there's a lot to chew on here, but that's kind of where my head's at on some of this right now.
Thank you. Councilman Hahn?
Thank you. I agree that we definitely need feedback from our residents on this, in particular, the Recreation Advisory Committee. It's my understanding that they have yet to receive this study or the slide presentation that we just received from NewGen, they did receive a copy of Dave's slides. So if we could remedy that, that would enable those residents to actually comment meaningfully on it. They do have a pool subcommittee that is very engaged and interested in these recommendations. So I wholeheartedly endorse that. I also think it's really important to get that rate survey out to all of the residents of Verona, not just the existing members, but you really want to get it out to as many as possible to really get a stronger sampling of what the community thinks on this. And personally, I am really troubled by some of the policy recommendations that I'm seeing here, because essentially we would be substantially, if we were to accept the recommendations that were presented today, we would be substantially increasing the costs of membership to the pool and charging additional costs on top of that if you wanted to participate in like going to the concert or other events. But then there appears to be a reduction in services that are available to, in particular, families that are joining the pool, the reduction in the splash pad hours, reduction in the rec tent, unless we can get the grant funding. So I am troubled by that, because if you're going to be paying so much more, like what exactly are you getting? You're just, you know, could there be an argument that, you know, essentially then contributes to people not joining the pool, which is that you're ultimately paying more for less? That is very concerning. I think it is an incredible asset to our community, and it is a place where families and children make summer memories. It is incredibly important to keep it vibrant for our township, and I just want to make sure that we don't end up losing that because of these concerns. So thank you.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Well, thank you. It's hard to say something novel after, you know, a lot of comments that were made by my peers that I do agree with. I do think we need that additional survey data to get to for the town residents, pool members, and existing members to really understand what selling out of town memberships gets us, and in terms of alleviation of their fees. So I think when we've asked the question in the past, it's a little vague. We need to get specific. I don't know if I agree with, we have, you know, just 4 scenarios presented. Given the increase in pool costs, I don't know if we ever really should adopt a 0% increase strategy like ever. So even if we were to do the out of, you know, pocket, out of town members, we should probably consider some nominal increase if that was the most extreme step. But I do think that it is sort of like when we're thinking of a decision tree, we do need to get to that decision fairly quickly. I was dismayed that of the takeaway, some of the things recommended, in particular the splash pad hours, only because it was such a consistent comment in all of our surveys to date about the expansion of those hours for our families that have the youngest of children that are normally, it's their first year joining because they have the babies. That's why they want the early hours, because children nap at noon. And so, you know, to then like strip it away completely. So again, can we get creative? One thing that wasn't mentioned in here was sponsorships. Look we had such amazing sponsorships to open this meeting talking about veterans. I am sure there's some children related businesses that can sponsor the rec tent for the season, can sponsor the splash pads. Can we, instead of scaling back, can we get even more creative? And so I do challenge us to keep thinking big. I do want to recognize that, as I already pointed out, with some of the program costs like the waves and water aerobics, and a lot of people know my story. I started swimming. I took adult swim lessons at night. They were very affordable. It completely changed my life. I'm like a huge, you know, supporter of swimming because of the opportunity that our recreation department provided. But, you know, would I have paid $40 more? Yes, because it was such an affordable service compared to like the YMCA, which I think is a good comparison point for some of these services, the YMCA in Montclair. But we do need to refresh all of our recreation fees. So I look forward to future presentations. I will say, as just a point of feedback, I do think some clarity on like for each slide, like what are we paying now? What are we recommending? A little bit, it was too much in the verbal notes. So I think that would be great for a second draft. I gave a note to Mr. O'Sullivan for New Gen, just to make sure we're not double counting the caregiver memberships. And I think we have a lot of serious things to think about. I do want to applaud the administration for getting us this presentation this early so that we can have the Recreation Advisory Committee feedback and make these decisions, not with this time pressure of, March, we have to approve the rates, we have to advertise the pool. Let's make this decision by January. I think that gives us a couple of weeks and, weeks to really sort all this out. I look forward to the follow-up information though. For me, some of, my, how am I going to vote is dependent on some of that follow-up information that I asked for. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have, then, we converse with the rec committee chair, and I think the one thing that we have to note at this point, that all of us have to note, is we are beyond, in many ways, what we want for the pool. And we have morphed into, with the expenses and the termination of the ARP funds and all that, what is going to keep the pool operational. And that needs to be our focus, is what keeps this pool open, the lights on, the water flowing. That's what I am going to be very focused on calling for, especially when we are rate making. So I hope that all of us can move forward by not getting us into the weeds on some things, and recognizing that, and really I applaud Mr. Robotham for including data on who has been using these items and things like that, because database decisions can be very effective. But I think the first conversation we need to have is what keeps the pool open. And the second conversation, once we figure out what keeps the pool open, is a lot of the other stuff doesn't actually have that much of an impact on the rate. And we need to have a conversation of, what is our rate just to keep it open? And then how much can we save by engaging in cost-cutting measures? And is that worth it? And how much more it would cost at that point to restore some of these items? So I would like to really get involved in that conversation. And I think in many ways that both of these reports tell us that we were at a I want to use the word crisis point, but we are at a facing some significant challenges with keeping this utility moving forward, especially when we will hit a point where we start pricing people out of memberships in order to keep the utility going. So, and unfortunately, a lot of this is going to be, trial and error in some ways. I don't know. We don't really have the economic analysis to know what the demand for full memberships is at different prices. We just don't have that at this point. And we can set up as many surveys as we want, but things change in a year from when people sign up. So the other thing that we have to really determine is, and this has to be part of it, what is our backup plan if we don't get, even if we raise prices and our memberships drop? What's our backup plan for that? And I am certain that if we're relying on outside memberships, that we need to have a significant backup plan for that if we're changing we are. So we want to keep it going. We think we need to focus on that piece first and deal with the minor pieces that are very important to some people, but in the scheme of things, they are more minor in policy. So, all right, we're moving on to council member reports. Mayor McAvoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just keep this short because we want to started tonight at 6:30 with the Unico Italian flag raising. I'm very happy they all came out, and I thank Unico for all they do for Verona. I was happy to attend. I wish I heard the national anthem at the start of the Mets game tonight, but unfortunately there was no Mets game. I have to certainly mention the finale of Verona Fights Hunger Week. Congratulations to the Verona Juniors and all their hard work. It's just amazing seeing all those bags of food and just knowing what that's going to do to some families in your local area, because they bring the food to the local food pantry. So thank them again, and it's a great tradition, and I hope they keep it going. And speaking of traditions, I'd like to thank again the Verona Environmental Commission for keeping Walk and Bike to School going. That was 2 weeks ago. I always enjoy going down to FM Brown and walking with the kids down there. It's always very, very well attended down there, and it's a good couple of blocks to walk with them. And that's all I'm going to touch on.
Thank you for your succinctness, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Roman?
In light of the hour, I will wait.
Thank you, Councilman Roman. Councilman McGrath?
Thank you. I share all of the wonderful words about Verona Fights Hunger Week. It was fantastic. I already thanked VMAC for Family Night. I do want to highlight that the Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee is meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. The annual Diwali lighting is on the Town Hall steps on the 30th of this month at 6 p.m. We will, everyone will be getting an email with those details. But I know many of you have gone in previous years. It's really a great event. It's once again being organized by residents and the Multicultural Inclusion and Accessibility Advisory Committee. The Neighborhood Traffic and Safety Committee has moved its meeting, and it will be on Tuesday, October the 29th at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. We will be talking about the Linden Avenue Traffic Demonstration Project and about the Complete Streets policy that they are working on. And Shade Tree should have a meeting on November the 11th. I do just want to reiterate everyone the importance of voting. And this is a great opportunity to try early vote, which was already mentioned, starts on Saturday, October 26th at our Verona Community Center. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Holland.
I will just add that I recently attended the Recreation Advisory Committee meeting, and there was a robust discussion about some of the topics that we addressed this evening. I just want to compliment the engaged citizens on that committee, and I look forward to the VMAC meeting tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I'm going to open for public comment on any item. Madam Clerk, would you please read the public participation statement?
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any matter, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor. Star 9. If you're attending in person, please approach the lectern. Once you're recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence. Required to provide your street address. However, these meetings will be posted on the township's YouTube channel. These addresses will not be redacted for any. You'll have 4 minutes to address the council. There'll be no cross dialogue during this public portion, and after everyone wishing to speak has been heard, council may.
This one over here.
I just wanted to give these to Jeff.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Jennifer.
Yeah, hello.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Alan Firestein. I live in Essex Fells. Recently, I sent a letter to you, Mayor Timborough, and to you, Manager DeArco, about noise from the fields. And there is a problem. The sound levels are too loud. And they're too loud in 2 places, at the fields and at many houses, not only in Essex Fells, but in Verona. I just handed Jennifer a list of signatures I got years ago from people who are concerned about this. Half of them are Essex Fells, half in Verona. I'd like to help you with this. I can make this listening all night about how you're concerned about costs, a zero cost situation. I'm a professional acoustic consultant. I've been doing this for 48 years. I know all about sound systems and sound. I had a recording studio called Sorcerer Sound. We recorded the 8 Grammy-winning
Nora Jones come away with Miguel. I've been doing this for over 18,000 jobs, helping people, organizations, town councils, businesses, and residents avoid noise problems. At my house, and you'll see in the report if you take a look at it, I tried to make it comprehensive but easy to understand. You can always call me, ask me questions. The sound levels are 60 decibels. Now, 60 decibels is about the sound level you're hearing from my voice at the distance you're sitting from me right now, about 60 decibels. 60 decibels is half as loud as 70 decibels. Subjectively, every time you add 10, it sounds to the average person like about a 10 decibel. That 10 decibel increase or change is a 2-time subjective change. 70 is twice as loud as 60. 80 is twice as loud as 70, and so on. The 102.7 decibels I measured sitting in the bleachers this Saturday is dangerously loud and more than 16 times louder than what you're hearing from my voice right now. And you can clearly understand me. Of course, with a crowd and people talking, you have to have it louder, but you don't have to have it 16 times louder. It's dangerously loud. And there's kids running up and down the bleachers. And not just kids, but adults can get hearing damage from this. And it's unnecessary. It doesn't have to be that loud. The speakers, in my opinion, are pointed the wrong way. They're positioned the wrong way. And most importantly, there's no sound limiter. The sound limiter will not only prevent the levels from going too high, but it'll prevent the levels from ever damaging your speakers. So I can help with all of this. It's in my interest, and frankly, it's in people's interests, not just in my town and your town, but also the spectators, the people who's, the parents and kids who are at the game. The noise levels are actually in violation of the Verona noise code. I put that in the handout. The problem is solvable. Need to help you with it. I'm happy to help. I'm busy, but I always seem to be able to make more time. I gave you 2 copies. I have a 3rd copy, but
You want to give it to me? Okay. Appreciate it.
And it's got pictures. It shows where I was sitting. I was not directly in front of the speaker. I measured 102.7. It would be much louder if I walked in front of it, and people could walk in front of it. You guys all know, if you've been to a Sweet 16, a bar mitzvah, a wedding, sound levels are very often too loud, and sometimes the speakers are in a position where you can walk by it or a kid can walk by it. They realize that the pressure and the pain they feel is danger. All my information's in there. Call me, email me. I'll help. I'll make it 0 cost for you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
We don't respond until.
You don't have to respond unless you want to.
But we let everybody go and then we respond. Let anybody speak.
Say one.
Right, he wants to say.
I would like to recognize, I believe you designed the studio plant that I used to take care of, just in recognition of your experience in acoustics. I recognize your name. So I actually used to take care of a facility that I believe you did the acoustical design for. So, very nice.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys. Okay, good night.
Mr. Petrangelo?
All right, where I start today? I haven't been here in a while, obviously. It's busy. All right, so let's start with 4 minutes. So basically, let's start with the pool. The pool, I talked to everybody, citizens, residents, you name it. I'm all over the place. My daughter plays softball, my son plays baseball, multiple sports, each kid. The pool, you got to charge, you got to raise it up. It's just like you said, Mayor, you're not at a point of what do we do? What do we do? I mean, 9 months ago, I sat in the rec department meetings, I sat here, and I listened to the same exact stuff. How are we going to come up with this much money? How are we going to come up with pennies on a dollar here, basically? Small money is not what you're thinking about. You got to raise those rates, and you got to make the out of town to like 2,000, and you got to bring them in. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stay open because, as I saw in the New Gen study, he said our water bill is $37,400, and right now, as I know, the town was supporting that water bill, the $17,000 on the maintenance in the building. So the taxpayers are doing that. You spent $200,000 in the American Rescue Plan money over this year, probably the past 3 or 4 years. So how much money are we going to spend until you guys just make the decision? We have to raise the rates, and you got to allow out of towners, or you don't. You got to make one option, and you got to bite the bullet and do it. NewGen did a study on the sanitary sewer a few months ago, and we increased all our sewer things, no problem. You had to vote for it because it came down to it. You had to do it. Well, you're going to have to do this. All right, Linden, let's go jump totally down to that one now. The Linden study is this. Linden Road is the same as Claremont. It runs parallel. It's the same thing. Claremont is the only road in Verona that doesn't have the Belgian block curbs, how you guys just replaced on Windermere and all that stuff. And the speeding is ridiculous on Claremont. That's just, you should have the same exact study that you're having on Linden on Claremont. The Starbucks on the end of Claremont, you guys voted that down because of the residents and everything is what I've heard. So now there's no light going in because, well, from what people are saying around town is the Starbucks is not happening, but right now there's no light there. They took down the no left turn sign. So there's accidents all the time. So you need to put back either the no left turn sign or something needs to happen with that intersection because that's revenue for our town. We need to get that property going. Everett, as you see, I coach. I've been in this for years because my daughter and son have been young. The reason my team is so successful is the parents that are there and the parents that show up. Right now, VBSL, there's 200 parents that want to get rid of VBSL and make it to the rec department or something else. VBSL you guys are talking to, if you go to Everett right now, it looks like a pigsty. The bleachers are filled with garbage. Both dugouts, home and away, are filled with garbage. It is disgusting. So when you spend all of this money on Everett, who is going to take care of it? Because it is a joke. Liberty is locked up and you can't enter that unless you have permission. Is that going to happen to Everett? Probably not. So Everett is a mess. Who is going to take care of that? And the VBSL is falling apart so bad right now. But don't shoot the messenger, VBSL, but you know, they are really bad. There's parents leaving. My son has not played for them since 8 years old. Everett is 12 kids try, 30 kids try out, 12 kids make the travel team, same 12 kids every year. You want kids to play? You put it to everybody. You give it to the rec department. You do something else with it. Pickleball and tennis courts. You have not one basketball court in this town that's not on an educational facility or in the pool that I do not have a membership for, but I pay the water bill and all the other stuff towards it, basically. So let's put a basketball court down there instead of pickleball and tennis courts. Are we running out of money? Because we have all these projects. We have the sewer on Durrell, the wastewater test that just got completed on the trunk lines, Claridge Drive pump station, the EMS building, town hall windows. You have all this stuff coming out, and where is this money coming from? That's what I want to know. It sounds like we're going in debt. And please, let's get some Belgian block curbs on Claremont. That's for Richie.
Thank you, Mr. Petrangeli. Any other?
I say that time.
We'll have another time at the end.
It's been a while since I've been here.
Any other members of the public who wish to make a statement? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comment. Mr. Firestein's not here anymore, but I know Mr. Diarco had emailed him back that we were investigating this issue. And that is certainly an issue that is best handled by the administration. And I'm sure that somebody will be able to figure out a way to turn the volume down over there. It's not being done already. There are certain geographic locations based on looking at maps as well that make the sound much louder at that residence. But at the same point, knowing the information about the decibel level where it stands is very concerning. Hopefully we can address that. Mr. Petrangeli, there have been some traffic studies related to Claremont Avenue. One of them resulted in the addition of the sign at Cumberland and Claremont. It had been there have been several Fox data collections that have happened on there. I used to live off of Claremont Avenue, so I understand what you're talking about. Now I live on another street that people drive too fast on. So another story for another day. The Belgian block curves are something that gets done when we reconstruct a road. Claremont had some work done on it not too long ago, so it's probably on the low end of that cycle. The township council had no involvement in an approval or disapproval of any occupant at the 40 Pompton Avenue or 30 Pompton Avenue. From what I understand, the zoning board of adjustment did approve certain variances for that, and the Starbucks will be going in. The council approved the owner of all of that land to put the light in at almost $1 million expense to the owner of that property. And that is going in. The reason that it's no work is because apparently it is very difficult to buy a traffic light. It's so hard to get the equipment and the materials in the current climate, but that light will be going in. We have not lost that light. As far as the sign, the no left turn sign, Mr. O'Sullivan, I am volunteering for him to have Chuck just put a new sign in. That's an easy fix. That explains why Councilman Roman and I saw a guy trying to turn left there the other day when we were coming back from the Acura dealership on that day. So that might be why if there's no sign there. And as far as your comment about spending money, I agree with you. We are in a constant state of debt as a municipality. It is one of the costs of doing business, and one that I think that you see in my comments have been pretty consistent in balancing those capital improvement projects. We have a limited capital improvement fund that comes out of our operating expense budget, which we have purchased certain items from this year. So if we have that, or we have a certain amount of fund balance that can be applied to that, we do that. Otherwise, our only option is to borrow money to cover these projects. And we are borrowing a lot of money. So one of the things to note, though, at the same time, is that we have debt that rolls off. So one of the things that the council looks at very consistently is when we're going in is when debt is rolling off. And one of the items that I have put my foot down on, anything related to when we have a capital expense, I want it to be expressed by our administration in terms of what its effect on the taxpayer is going to be. And further, we've engaged in the last year and a half in a much more coherent and consistent capital planning process. So instead of in the past, we had reviewed capital expenses kind of haphazardly as far as like one at a time. And now we are reviewing them largely just right after the operating budget is discussed so that we can rank those things. And we do ask the hard questions, especially if our department has on what we need now. Some of the items, for better or for worse, and it's not really my role to comment on previous councils, I'm not, because every council has to make a set of decisions regarding what is important at that time. But at the same point, whether they're making those decisions, not making those spending money on other things that need to be done right away, and doing the same balancing act we do, puts us in a situation where we have to do another balancing act. And we are engaging in a lot of those things. I think the one thing that you'll notice from this council is that when we spend money, especially millions of dollars, because nothing in government costs less than $1 million these days, is that we are trying to not only consider the financial impact of it, but really make it a facility or spending that is worthwhile. So thus, we've expanded the concept plan for things like Everett Field, and our administration, Mr. DiArco especially, has found creative ways to use funding from the county, CDBG, state grants to offset some of the costs of these items. So one of the reasons why I decided that I would like to sit up here is to manage a lot of that capital expense. And unfortunately, I will admit that we've spent more than I planned on, but at the same point, most of our capital allocations are 5-0 votes because we recognize the necessity of these items and it's not something that we can really move forward on. So, that we cannot move forward on. That's probably a better way of saying things. So we're in some of those situations, and I think that as we start to reimagine things like grass versus turf fields and the costs associated with that, we're going to start to see some long-term changes. But at the same point, I think a lot of the changes that we're implementing are going to take a decade for people to appreciate what the impact of them is going to be. So, out of fairness, but that is my long answer to your many points. But as always, I appreciate the your forthrightness with your comments and the courage of making them. And it allows us to review certain things and I'll tell anybody in the future, if you see a no left turn sign missing, just call Kevin O'Sullivan and he'll get a sign. That is going to be our new rule. Or just call Chuck. Chuck will get you a sign. Councilwoman McGrath.
Yes, thank you. On that, though, a resident did raise that 2 weeks ago to us, so I do, I'm wondering why it wasn't replaced then, or if it got knocked down or removed again. So on that point, a resident actually did already timely raise that the minute it went down. So I was not aware that that was not fixed. So if we can look into that, that would be great.
Paul was out there with his baseball bat.
I have left turn sign. I could replace it.
Mr. Roman.
I will say at one point in time, I counted at that intersection and there were 5 of those signs up at that one intersection, which I don't think there was an extra place you could put one if you wanted to, and people still turned left. Yeah, so the light feeling is going to work there. But thank you for your comments. The mayor's comments were a very good response just on the capital expenditure piece. I will tell you that is one of my larger concerns up here is, our ability to finance all of these things. But that is, part of our duty as a municipality is to invest people's tax dollars in long-term assets on their behalf. Communities that don't do that find themselves in infrastructure crises. If you underinvest over years, the needs don't go away. One of the things that I do every year in this town is I go around, I pick a day and I go around with all of our department heads and I physically look at every physical asset of this town. I've seen every single water tank, every corner of the wastewater treatment plant. I think we've opened every door in every single building in the township. And there's things that still need to be replaced. Every time, like dealing with our roads is like painting a bridge. When you're done, you start over at the other end of it. That being said, a couple of years ago, we were operating in a very different interest rate environment than we are now. We were in an era of cheap money, relatively low oil costs, which also made paving roads cheaper. We are not in that anymore, but the needs haven't gone away. But there is a ton of public demand. We also hear the opposite. We hear from people, you need to improve this facility. You need to get this done. And we also have to be responsive to that in that people are looking for us to develop, maintain, and improve municipal facilities. We do try and do it in a cost-effective manner. We ask the township administration a lot of questions about capital management. We push back on expenses. We ask them to try and find ways to do these projects for less. But I will agree with you. It's just it is sometimes overwhelming the amount of capital that we do have to spend. But if we don't do it, sometimes the results are worse. So just please understand, please know that we do very intently look at that.
Thanks. We are now moving on to our favorite part of the evening, which is hearing adoption of ordinances. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2024-34 on second reading. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of the ordinance into the record?
Bond ordinance providing for the improvement of the sewer line near the Peckman River in the Township of Verona in the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $60,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $57,000 the notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
Madam Clerk, would somebody please move this ordinance?
So second.
Which is made by the Deputy Mayor, and the second is made by Councilwoman McGrath. Now it's time for public hearing on ordinance 2024-34. The same public comment statement applies. Order comments must be limited only to this ordinance. Hearing none, I close public comment. Is there any council discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland? Yes. Councilwoman McGrath?
Yes.
Councilman Roman?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy?
Yes.
Mayor Tambora?
Yes.
Mayor ordinance 34 passes 5-0 will be published according to law.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance on first reading labeled H1. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of this ordinance into the record?
Amending chapter A 565-1, schedule of fees, specifically stormwater fee code.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would somebody move the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion is made by Councilwoman McGrath. Is there a second?
Second.
Second is made by Councilwoman Holland. Is there any council discussion on this item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGrath,
Yes.
Councilman Roman,
Yes.
Mayor McAvoy,
Yes.
Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor ordinance H1 will be number 2024-35. Will be published according to law. Public hearing will be held on November 12th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next up is our consent agenda. We have one set of minutes and 18 resolutions. Would anybody like anything removed from consent agenda? Receive. Hearing none, would somebody like to move the consent agenda J1 and K1 through 18?
So moved.
Motion's made by Councilman Roman. Is there a second, Deputy Mayor?
Second.
Second. This time I'll call for public comment on the consent agenda. Same public comment statement applied. Now I close public comment. I will open to council discussion. I don't see anybody jumping, so I have a question on K5, Mr. DiArco. I have a question on K5, which is the two Mason dump trucks.
Yes,
So it says that the purchase of the two Mason dump trucks would not exceed $12,000.
they're not new.
So these are used, two used Mason dump trucks. And we're getting both together. Is it 12,000 each or both together for $12,000?
It's the balance of this year.
It's the amount that's due this year for both of them collectively.
Okay, so this is a financing arrangement. Is this
Correct.
and how many years are we? The numbers seem very low, so that's why. How many years are we?
That's our strategic work. With that, when did it come out?
I believe
We'll pay you next year.
our finance officer provided, and
The same dump trucks came up in the Capitol and
Yes.
and we did not approve them because of the necessity of the salt
Yeah.
dome.
Struggle.
So, and we were just talking about this just a minute ago with Mr. Petrangeli. So, could we talk about why now we're doing this under operating instead of the capital?
Same questions I have, superintendent. With that, he did both items, but in front of the council, he requested the stall dome. It's equally important in advising him that you really can't trade one thing off for another. When you get to capital budgets, those trucks are failing. You would have difficulty in the snow seats. I did get the reviews on it, it's essential, and we really had to put pieces together to do this over a 2-year period. Or else we'd have problems in the winter. I don't think you'll have that problem in next year's budget.
Sure.
Items that are needed need not to be concerned about presenting to the council the need and not trading off things. So it's happened here a lot in the past.
And this $12,000 for this payment, this annual payment.
See if I was.
This is coming from the budget line, so this is pre-budgeted money. We're not spending anything additional beyond what we anticipate spending.
it's a 36-month period.
So 3 years at $12,000 a year. Are we expecting a balloon payment at some point?
It's a lease.
I thought it was flat.
It's
So it's going to be $72,000 next year.
correct.
Are we leasing these vehicles? Or are we purchasing them outright? Will we? And
It's a purchase.
it is a purchase. But we're financing these through the dealer rather than
Correct.
bonding.
It's a lease to purchase. It's a lease.
Or we don't the police cars.
Correct.
So this is an interesting question, I guess, is that, let's say what happens in, this is an annual resolution, right? So right now we're doing this for this year. So we have a resolution in January and the resolution fails, right? Can you get the trucks back? Like, how does that work? I mean, really, I think we need to be clear that we're not spending $12,000 tonight and that we're spending $150,000 tonight. That's what we need to be clear on.
Under DCA budgeting, it's always up to the budget council decision on funding and budgets. There's always that clause if unfunded. Not one of the better options that we would have. We major snowstorms come January, February, and we don't have vehicles on the road. And the council will be, you're really pressed. I don't see this problem happening again, because there was extensive meetings over these trucks with the CFO, myself, the deputy manager, relative to capital budget requests and planning and what's essential needs to be presented to the council. And it is essential, and you can't trade off items just so you're getting what you think that you need rather than what the township does need. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't see that happening again.
I guess my next question would be, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, is if we're assuming that there's going to be a $72,000 expense next year, is the assumption also that we'd be increasing the operating budget by $72,000, or in your thinking on acquiring these vehicles, have we somehow reduced the operating budget elsewhere by $72,000?
Exactly.
There's extensive maintenance to these trucks that $15 to $20-year-old dump trucks. So there is an immediate savings in that you are taking these older, very expensive vehicles to maintain out of service and replacing them with new, more efficient vehicles.
That's what I'm.
Under GAAP, you wouldn't be allowed to do this in this direction. Anything that results in the creation of a durable asset would have to be capitalized. Kind of to present this as an operating expense, basically, if we're just making the payments on this, it's still capital. You're still creating a capital. So just from, my opinion, from a procedural standpoint, I'm challenged in, how you go about this by simply just saying, oh, we're just going to have this operating expense. Here's a one-time request for the rest of the year. When realistically this is, we're buying trucks.
I think it's slightly different when we lease the police cars, because the police car leases are generally coming from the fund that we get from the road jobs and things like that. So it's a different source of revenue in the budget of the municipality. So this is just, I'm worried that in doing this way, that we are now creating an environment where we have less say in the actual budget construction for next year, which we don't even talk about until March, April, and we don't even approve the budget until then. So we're gonna have to be doing another resolution in December to pay for the next several months or whatever it is.
It'll be part of the operating budget.
No, but we have to approve. We're only making 2 payments with this resolution as it stands now. So this is I'm not comfortable with the way this is presented. I'm comfortable with the fact that we need dump trucks. But I also, to be honest, I might have, if I knew that this was going to happen anyway, we might have pushed the salt dump off, right? So there is a concern about when we kind of said, what do you want right away? And it was the salt dome, and now the dump trucks are coming now.
Can't agree for more on it.
So, it's just one of those things that we have to think about. So procedurally, Mr. Lawyer, I don't want to borrow money for these items if we don't have to, but are we really hamstringing ourselves if we do this? Can we, what happens
I'd have to look at the contract because as the manager indicated, if you didn't have the actual money, that would certainly, it's usually a reason to get out. There's always a question, right? Because what does that mean? Like if you're really not, the Township of Verona is a vibrant town, so it would be more of a choice of yours, not funding it. So I'd have to review the agreement that we entered into. So I guess I'm not sure, but can we put this off until the following meeting so we can review those documents? I'll get back to you on that.
The problem is our next meeting is the 12th, and if we need these things for snow removal, we're putting ourselves in a pretty difficult situation. Is this something that we could table and that you could look at as we discuss other things, and then we could bring it back in new business?
I could certainly try to give you an opinion right now, sure.
And we could table it from the consent agenda, discuss some of the new business items, because we have some that might take a couple minutes, and then come back.
We have the addendum as well.
We have the addendum. Well, that's it. Yeah, that's the only thing that we have for new business. But maybe do that.
May I just have one more question regarding this particular purchase?
Let me just let Councilman Grab ask her question.
Did I have to? No, I mean, I think this is just an example. We really probably needed a summary memo. I mean, consent agenda when it's cut and dry, but this was a unique situation. We probably needed a summary memo that this was coming our way. That's more of a.
That was to be my last comment.
Oh, okay. So
is that this would have made a good memo.
A summary memo, complicated situations or changes like this I did not and this is why as 5 members we have different strengths and we pick up on different things in the packet. So
this didn't appear in any of the departmental reports or manager. Is our financing rate through this scheme better than our own cost of capital? I mean, obviously the dealer, if we're financing those toward more credit, are they giving us a lower rate than our bond rate?
I think the intention from our finance officer is to ultimately move this into capital in 2025.
So it would actually end up being a buyout.
So it would be our own finance rates. It wouldn't be on the board financing rates.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely confused on this one. Because we'd be paying this payment would include interest at this point already, because interest is amortized into the financing. So we would be paying, and my concern is that if we put this into capital, are we paying would the finance company Ford Motor Credit's not gonna we'd have to re-amortize the whole item because we would be making a summative payment at that point, putting on our own capital, and then they would have to actually revise the cost of the vehicles.
I'm just asking you one question.
Yes.
And so it went through the Essex County Co-op. So
lower rate than our own cost of capital.
Yes. I don't know. I didn't look at our current capital and the co-op, but the co-ops are usually at the same rates.
Yeah, but the question is, let's say we wanted to capitalize this for the future, but that's difficult to capitalize it because we wouldn't get it until January, February, even at this point, right?
The vehicles, they're apparently available.
No, if we had to capitalize this item and we did it as a bond, and we just bought them outright, we wouldn't be able to actually take possession of these things for several months because of the requirement to actually pass an ordinance for a bond and all of that stuff. So this is the more urgent way of doing it. But I guess the question is that assuming now that we bought it through the co-op, which is another complicating process, can we, if we were to capitalize this, borrow to pay for it as a capitalized item, could we get out of the interest payments? Are they going to release us from the interest payment if we provide a balloon payment at that time, like you would on a loan over a home, right?
We'd actually have to ask Jen. And how she.
Is there any backup for it? We have the resolution in our packet, but not for any contract.
So we go to loan. If we can't, if we can't get this information now, my recommendation is to have a special meeting on this item. Once we can get the information, do a short special meeting, because I don't feel comfortable voting on something until I've seen the contract, I have the answers to these questions. But I also don't feel comfortable pushing this off until November 12th. Right, so I think we're in kind of a tough position now. If the vehicles are available immediately, then maybe it's not a big deal to put it off until the 12th. But if we're going to do it this way, we need to kind of figure it out. We need to ask them if they can hold our dump trucks for us.
I mean,
In the deposit.
Or we take them a deposit without authorizing an expenditure.
Well, Mr. DiArco can authorize certain expenditures as a positive. It's going to come back to us. He does have that ability if it's already in the budget to do that.
We'll get you them.
So
We'll make the calls tomorrow.
yeah, I mean, unless anybody wants to vote on this without seeing a contract or understanding this, like we could have a vote. I'm just a little, I'm tough on this one.
I understand the need, but this is procedurally totally backwards from the way that we buy vehicles and equipment.
I just don't think we have the answers to all the questions yet. I need to know what we're doing with this next year. Councilman.
If when you're going back, can we just understand, from a safety point of view, if we waited to the next meeting and there was a snow event, like what would happen? So I think I just have also that logistical concern. Because we did have an ice storm on Halloween. 13 years ago. No, 12 years ago. So that would be helpful to know, and I think that would inform then,
So I don't have a problem with the specials, and in fact, we could have it on Halloween. All right.
we're pulling K5.
We'll figure that out. So I need somebody to revise. Actually, I need somebody to, because we have the motion on the table. So who made the motion for the consent agenda? I did. I need the deputy mayor to revise his motion to.
I made the motion. Second.
Councilman, I need you to make a motion to approve the J1, K1 through 4, and K6 through 18. Are you okay with that? To revise your motion?
I will revise my motion accordingly.
Do you agree with that, Deputy Mayor?
Second, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on any of the items that is not K5? All right, Minister, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman McGrath.
Yes.
Councilman Roman.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mayor Tamboro.
Yes.
Mayor, resolutions K1 to K4 and K6 through K18 will be numbered 1-209.
And I'll hear a motion to table K5. That way we can take it off the table in a future meeting without any further issue. We'll move to table. Then, Councilman Roman has moved to table K5. Is there a second? Second. Tabling. Let's not have debate. Madam Clerk, if all those doing all those in favor? Aye.
No.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. The resolution K5 is tabled. All right, we are moving on to our addendum this evening. This. All right, we have addendum M1 is our discussion to amend chapter 140 vehicles and traffic, which I'm guessing is why our white shirted friend is here. Chief Kieran, would you like to join us?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As you see on hopefully it reads the same way. Clerk cleaned it up for me. But basically under 140-38, the recommendation from the police department after meeting with administration is to make Bloomfield Avenue, both sides, Park Avenue to Hillcrest Terrace, 30-minute parking from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Saturday. There were the previous, as we move on to the ones we're going to amend, previously there's supposed to be metered parking all the way up to Brookdale and Hillcrest. Meters have not been there for, I've heard 40, other business owners have told me almost 50 years. So this is just more of cleaning up an ordinance down below that's not applicable or hasn't been applied, I should say. And in speaking with all the businesses along that stretch, 30-minute parking, because they are not in the central business district zoned, 30-minute parking would do well for their businesses. Was a consensus. Moving down, so if we did that 30-minute from Park Avenue East, we would then amend the meter ordinance to reflect that.
Just for between Park Avenue and Open Stars.
Correct.
The 30-minute parking.
Correct.
The 2-hour parking would remain in the center of town.
That is correct. Those are metered and also the option to park mobile. So the amended, the 14068 would just reflect that time limit parking that's above. And then if you see the no parking certain hours, this is 14036. This would be for Gould Street. There is no parking as it currently reads on the west side of the street from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. school days. And speaking with the school as well as the library, which struggles with parking for patrons, much better to have no parking 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. September through June. With that is the heaviest spot for drop off. We do have a school guard posted there to cross the children. But after 9 a.m. to allow parking on the street there would be beneficial to not only people using the municipal building, but again, the library and the school, as well as the business district. So that's kind of cleaning up something and listening to the feedback that would make a lot of sense. Afternoon pickup is crowded. However, it's not as busy as in the morning when they use that area to drop.
I've been there in the afternoon and it's pretty busy, but I guess the morning must be mad.
So in the morning, yeah.
Why no parking on Saturday then if it's related to the school? Just Monday through Saturday.
So did I?
It should be Monday through Friday, September through June.
Oh,
Yeah,
Friday.
Yeah, I see September through June, Monday through Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we want that Monday through Friday.
That was my mistake.
That was fine.
And that is it. That's pretty easy, based on feedback and based on the police department looking at the usage. It does make sense.
Any further questions for Chief Kiernan?
Just a quick one.
Deputy Mayor.
Chief, the Park Avenue to Hillcrest, why do we stop it? We're better to go to Everett? Couple spots there, or because Brookdale's across.
You know, it was always defined as Hillcrest, so we just mirrored that. You know, you start to get into the beyond Hill, just the gas station or one business at this time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, the one business that's there.
They're close to the crosswalk there as well, so they're limited in front of their shop. So,
thank you.
Does anybody have any objection to this being on first reading at the next meeting? All good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Hey, next up is our discussion on the township zoning code changes and our wonderful town planner.
Good evening,
Sarah,
everyone.
welcome.
So last time I was here, there were two things. You'd asked me to revise the ordinance to basically have standards for the commercial entertainment, to give a better definition, to look into ghost kitchens, and then also to delete certain language regarding the existing town center requirements for where there was a maximum seating capacity and the uses being permitted along on lots fronting Bloomfield Avenue to make commercial entertainment a conditional use. And it also asked me to check the height for the principal buildings. And then I believe Councilman Roman had asked me to look research into professional offices to see what the rents, vacancies, and so on and so forth. So there was a memo that I believe that was sent as well. So regarding the town center ordinance, we have what I've done is given a clearer definition and emphasized, and I want to discuss that with you. For commercial entertainment shall not include uses such as dance halls. I think I expanded it first to include in the prior iteration had bowling alley, ice skating pool and or billiard rooms, and then I expanded that to include escape rooms, indoor rock climbing gyms, indoor tennis or pickleball courts, and that commercial entertainment shall not include uses such as dance halls or nightclubs. I've also provided a definition